Chapter 3171. The name's a little weird, but they're all good stuff. The Grand Elder smiled. Elderly and I suggest that you practice the art of the Silkworm Phoenix summoning. It's better than the Golden Rooster Cry. It's the best one we have, and it's the one that's most compatible with the Inheritor. Oh, what did this mantra mean? What's the benefit? Meng Yao thought about it. The name of the art Lin Yi was practicing was pretty lame, so she picked up the art of the Silkworm Phoenix summoning and asked. This mantra is said to be a mantra created by the silkworm in ancient times. Our ancestor discovered that this mantra is very compatible with the dark phoenix physique of our Dark Knight Palace. And after she cultivated it, she was indeed very powerful. But we don't have the dark phoenix body, so we weren't able to practice it. The Grand Elder explained. Silkworm? Who's that? Meng Yao blinked. Silkworm, the wife of Emperor Xian Yuan in the ancient times. He had 4 concubines and 10 concubines, and Silkworm was his first wife. The Grand Elder explained. Silkworm is Xuan Yuan's wife? The eldest miss blushed without warning. She was a little shy, but also a little sweet. This caused the Supreme Elder and Elderly to be a little dumbfounded. Palace Lord, what's going on? Meng Yao was quick to connect the dots. Lin Yi's art was called the Art of Dragon Mastery, and hers was called the Art of the Silkworm Phoenix Summoning. Xian Yuan and Silkworm, Dragon and Phoenix, all corresponded with each other. Didn't that mean that she and Lin Yi corresponded with each other as well? The miss started blushing at the thought. Silkworm was Xuan Yuan's first wife? Was she the same? Yes, it should be. They kissed before, and that meant they were in love. The miss started thinking about random things. Ahem. Palace Master, what's wrong? Elderly couldn't help but ask. Nothing. Meng Yao, of course, couldn't say what she was thinking. She shook her head quickly. I'm training in the Silkworm Phoenix art. It's pretty good. The name's pretty good too. Of course. The Grand Elder was puzzled as well. Meng Yao was just saying that the name was weird. Why did it sound nice now? But the Grand Elder didn't want to know about these things. It was enough as long as Meng Yao practiced the best arts. Yao Yao, this mantra, we haven't practiced it before. You have to figure it out yourself. If you don't understand anything, you can find us to discuss it together. All right, I understand. Meng Yao nodded, her expression returning to normal. Then Elderly and I will return first. The very high elder said, You have successfully accepted the inheritance. This is an important piece of news. I will go inform the sect disciples and congratulate them. All right. Meng Yao stood up and sent the Grand Elder and Elderly off before returning to the cushion. She looked at the Silkworm Phoenix art in her hands, a sweet smile on her face. The Grand Elder didn't interfere with Meng Yao's matters anymore, and Meng Yao could communicate with the outside world as she wished. The first thing Meng Yao wanted to do after finishing her training was to call home. As for who to call first, Meng Yao didn't even think about it before calling the villa's number. In fact, Meng Yao had wanted to call Pingzhan and ask her mother how Yi Wan'er was doing, but she couldn't help but dial the villa's number when she picked up the phone. Chapter 3172. Although, during these days of training in the Palace of Darkness, Meng Yao would sometimes regret not understanding her feelings earlier when she returned to reality from her training state. She didn't say it until they were separated, but Meng Yao was glad that she wouldn't be able to understand her feelings if it wasn't for this separation. The phone rang a few times, but no one picked up. After a while, it turned into an automated message. Hello, this is the home of the universe's super invincible, cute, genius prophecy secret detective, Shu 007. If you want to leave a message for Shu, please press 1. If you want to leave a message for Shield Bro, please press 2. If you want to leave a message for Yao Yao Sis, please hang up. She's on a long trip. Huffed. Meng Yao almost burst out laughing at the last line. She knew the first few lines of the autograph, since she'd had it at home. The second line was obviously Yushu's doing. But Meng Yao was puzzled. Where did the people in the villa go? Why wasn't anyone picking up? Meng Yao looked at the time, subconsciously, realizing that it was already midnight. She trained day and night and didn't really care about the time. In the Palace of Darkness, there were disciples on duty day and night, and the strong practitioners basically used training as a replacement for sleep. But Even if it was midnight, Lin Yi should still be picking up the phone. Besides, if it was midnight, there should be someone in the house, right? Meng Yao dialed Lin Yi's number curiously, wanted to ask him where he was. On Lin Yi's side, he had Qintian and San Huang take care of Pure Yin and Dongfang Yinxing's bodies. Not long after he returned to the villa, his phone rang. Seeing the familiar caller ID, Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. This was the missed calling? Yao Yao? Lin Yi picked up, a little surprised. And it's me, Lin Yi. Are you all right? Meng Yao's voice was calm, just like how she always sounded when she called Lin Yi. There was a natural warmth in her voice. I'm fine, how about you? Lin Yi didn't tell Meng Yao about the 2 Sky-class late phase peak masters. He didn't want Meng Yao to worry. Since it was over, it didn't matter anymore. I'm fine too. My position in the Palace of Darkness is even higher than Xiao Xiao's in the Ice Palace. The Grand Elder doesn't really care about me now, so I'm quite free. Meng Yao was a little proud of herself. It seemed that she wasn't the most useless one. At the very least, she was pretty good among all of Lin Yi's women. That's good. Lin Yi nodded. This was what he was most worried about. He'd be relieved if Meng Yao was fine in the Palace of Darkness. You've already started training? How's the progress? It's pretty good. The mental cultivation method I cultivate is called the art of silkworm driving phoenix. It has a strange reputation, just like your mental cultivation method. Both are weird. Meng Yao didn't mention the connection between the two, but she believed that with Lin Yi's intelligence, he'd be able to figure out easily. The miss knew how to hit now. Art of silkworm driving phoenix. Lin Yi paused. She knew who the silkworm was. She was the wife of Xianyuan Emperor, and the name of Meng Yao's mental cultivation method was very similar to his own. Lin Yi didn't believe that Meng Yao didn't notice it, and he felt that the miss was hinting at something as well. He smiled. Yeah, it's pretty much the same as mine. Maybe it's the same type of mental cultivation method. Who knows? We might even be able to train together. Die. The miss blushed a little. Although she confessed her feelings to Lin Yi, it was just a confession after all. The two of them didn't get together after that. Although there were some flirtatious moments in their lives, they weren't in a relationship. The miss was still very shy at this moment. She wasn't used to Lin Yi's teasing. I'm just joking. I'm a golden class late phase peak now. It's about the same as when you first came to Songshan. Oh, that's fast. Lin Yi was a little surprised. Not bad, the miss said proudly. Right, where's Shu? Why didn't you guys pick up the phone? Oh, we were doing something in the yard. Not in the villa, Lin Yi said vaguely. You? With Shu? In the yard in the middle of the night? Meng Yao's tone was a little weird. Lin Yi, don't tell me you were having sex with Shu in the wild? Lin Yi paused. He didn't know if he should laugh or cry. However, he couldn't blame Meng Yao for thinking too much. Lin Yi's tone was indeed a little mysterious. It made people suspicious. Lin Yi smiled. Are you jealous, Yao Yao? Jealous? Wouldn't you have died if you wanted to be jealous? What did Xiao Xiao, Xinyan, and Jing Jing say? Meng Yao said impatiently. Besides, it's not a big deal if it's Shu. She always wants to be a small wife. I'm used to it. Man, it's just 2 guests. Let's go check it out. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Shu and I, if we wanted to do something, it would have happened a long time ago. There's no need to wait for you to leave. It's not like you don't know what kind of person Shu is. She doesn't need to hide from you if she wants to do something. That's true. Meng Yao nodded. She felt that she was overthinking. As long as you're fine, I'll give my dad a call and Shu a call. If you need anything, just text me. I'll turn off my phone when I'm cultivating. I'll contact you after I finish cultivating and see your text. Okay, Yao Yao. Take care. Lin Yi said. All right, I'm fine here. Don't worry. Meng Yao smiled. After hanging up, Lin Yi relaxed a little. It seemed that Meng Yao was doing well in the Palace of Darkness. Lin Yi couldn't help but admire the Mississippi. She had a strong aura and was able to control the situation. Meng Yao's second call was to Peng Zhan. Yao Yao. Peng Zhan was a businessman. Naturally, he wouldn't turn off his phone. He was surprised and happy when he received Meng Yao's call. There was no news from Meng Yao ever since she left. Peng Zhan was worried, but there was nothing he could do. After all, he knew the Palace of Darkness better than anyone. If he could contact them, then he could. If he couldn't, then there was nothing he could do. It had been so many years, and there was no news from Yi Wan-er. Meng Yao had just left. How could he expect any news from her? So Peng Zhan was prepared to not see his daughter for 10 years. Chapter 3173. It's me, Daddy, I miss you. Meng Yao heard Peng Zhan's voice, filled with emotions. I miss you too. Yao Yao, how are you doing in the Palace of Darkness? How come you can call me? Did the Grand Elder allow you to contact the outside world? Have you been in contact with Lin Yi? Peng Zhan asked a bunch of questions. I'm the Palace Master of the Palace of Darkness now. No one can stop me from doing what I want here. Meng Yao said proudly. Daddy, don't worry about me. I'm fine here. The Grand Elder won't ask anything of me. Peng Zhan was startled. He didn't expect Meng Yao to be this powerful. Yi Wan-er used to be the Palace Master of the Palace of Darkness, but she didn't have much power. Meng Yao, on the other hand, was different. She just entered the Palace of Darkness and had already obtained the position she deserved. Daddy, I've successfully accepted the inheritance, and I'm now a golden class late phase peak, so the Grand Elder is very happy. Meng Yao explained, right? Have you seen Mommy? Are you guys all right? Your mom? Peng Zhan paused, quickly asking. Yao Yao, you said that your mom is back. Yeah, you didn't see her? Meng Yao was shocked, thinking that there wouldn't be a problem, would there? One had to know that Yi Wan-er had gone back half a month ago. Why wasn't she home yet? No, could it be that your mom is back? Peng Zhan was shocked as well, suddenly realizing that something was wrong. Daddy, wait, I'll contact you later. Meng Yao was panicking. Logically speaking, with Yi Wan-er's sky-class early phase strength, there shouldn't be any danger. But Yi Wan-er did go back, but she didn't go home, so where could she go? Even if she was a sky-class early phase, Meng Yao didn't feel at ease. After all, the Dongfang people were all sky-class masters, and Yi Wan-er really wasn't their match. So Meng Yao had to find Yi Wan-er as soon as possible. Okay, if you have news of your mom, let me know immediately. Peng Zhan was panicking as well. Meng Yao hung up. He immediately went to look for the Grand Elder. Now, Meng Yao had a lot of authority in the Palace of Darkness. She could go in and out of any place she wanted, something Yi Wan-er never had before. Even the Grand Elder's residence. Meng Yao could also enter without notifying anyone. And this was also the reason why the Grand Elder could come and ask Meng Yao whenever she had any problems during her training. So now, the disciples of the Dark Palace could see that Meng Yao was the real Palace Master, different from when Yi Wan-er was on the throne. The era of the Supreme Elder's word was already over. No one dared to go against Meng Yao's words. Whatever she said, it was the same as what the Grand Elder said. That was authority. Greetings, Palace Master. The maid beside the Grand Elder used to be a very powerful existence. He wouldn't be polite to Yi Wan-er, but to Meng Yao, he was very respectful. They knew very well that Meng Yao wanted them dead. The Grand Elder didn't hesitate at all. Yao Yao, you're here. Grand Elder warmly welcomed her. She was all smiles when she saw Meng Yao. The more she looked, the more satisfied she was. Grand Elder, I called my father just now, and he said that my mother didn't go back to Donghai. Didn't our people escort her back? Meng Yao asked directly. What? Wan-er didn't go back. That's impossible. It's our people who accompanied her all the way to Peng Zhan's company. How could they not have gone back? The elder paused, puzzled. All the way to the company? But my father said that he didn't see her. Meng Yao's heart skipped a beat. Did something really happen? Yao Yao, don't worry. I'll call the Dark Shadow Group right away. We still have people in the East Ocean City. Especially after Wan-er went back, I asked Elderly to send more people. They didn't report any bad news, which means that Wan-er is fine. The Grand Elder said, and sent someone to call Elderly. Elderly regained control of the Dark Shadow Group because of Meng Yao, and his power in the Palace of Darkness was at its peak. After Elderly arrived, the Grand Elder told Elderly about Yi Wan-er's situation and said, Elderly, go ask the members of the Dark Shadow Group in East Ocean City where Wan-er is right now. Okay, I'll go ask now. Elderly said and went to make the call. About 10 minutes later, Elderly came back with a weird look on his face and said to Meng Yao and the Grand Elder, Palace Master, the Dark Shadow Group said that Elder Yi is staying in a hotel opposite Pingzhan Industries in Donghai. She's been staying in the hotel ever since she came to Donghai. She'll go out occasionally and take a look at Pingzhan's place, but she won't stay overnight. She'll come back to stay at night. Staying in a hotel nearby? So, my mom didn't meet my dad? She goes home at night and only stays outside? Meng Yao heard this and felt that it was strange. Yes, but we can't be sure. After all, the Dark Shadow Group can't follow too closely. Elder Yi is also a sky class. She'll be discovered if she gets too close. Elderly said. Then, do you have any way of contacting my mom? Meng Yao asked. Yes, but we need to get the Dark Shadow Group to look for her in the hotel room, because Elder Yi doesn't have a phone or any other communication tools. Elderly said, and suddenly thought of something. There's another way, which is to find the number in her hotel room and call her directly. Then we'll go with the second method. Elderly, go check it out now. Meng Yao said, Okay, I'll go ask them now. Elderly nodded. After a while, Elderly came back and passed a piece of paper with a phone number to Yi Waner and said, Palace Master, this is the number in Elder Ye's room. Meng Yao let out a sigh of relief and nodded. She took the phone number and walked out of the room to call her mother Yi Waner. The Grand Elder and Elderly didn't follow her out, obviously not wanting to eavesdrop on Meng Yao. Chapter 3174. Mom. Meng Yao's heart ached when she heard the voice. She couldn't understand why her mother would hide in the hotel and not meet her father. Yao Yao. Waner paused, not expecting Meng Yao to call her in her hotel room. But after a while, she understood that the Dark Palace's Dark Shadow Group must be paying attention to her. So it wasn't surprising that Meng Yao could get her number. You got my number from the Dark Shadow Group? Yes. Elderly just gave it to me, Meng Yao said. Yao Yao, Mama's very happy. It seems like you really have a foothold in the Dark Palace, and you've obtained the power of the Palace Master. Waner sighed. She had been in the Dark Palace for so many years. How would she dare to call home? But Meng Yao dared, and not only that, Elderly also regained his power. All of this was probably brought by Yao Yao. Waner couldn't understand her daughter. Although the two looked similar, her daughter was much stronger than her. Yes, Mom, let's not talk about this first. Why don't you meet Dad? He misses you a lot. Meng Yao quickly asked. Yao Yao. Waner fell silent. She returned to Donghai, but she didn't go see Pingzhan immediately because she was excited and worried. It had been so many years, and she hadn't seen Pingzhan. How could she not be excited? However, her daughter had sacrificed herself for her return, and Pingzhan had lost his daughter in exchange for his wife. As a result, Yi Waner didn't dare face Pingzhan. After all these years, she hadn't fulfilled her duty as a wife, and Pingzhan hadn't found anyone else, not even a lover. This made Waner feel very guilty. She felt that she owed Pingzhan and didn't know how to face him. So she hid in the hotel and watched Pingzhan secretly, not daring to meet him. Mom, what's wrong? Is there something you can't say? Meng Yao was confused. I don't know how to face your dad. It's been so many years, and I can't be by his side. I can't even call him. I suddenly appeared and came back, and I don't dare to go see him. Wan smiled bitterly and told Meng Yao her worries. Waner's words made Meng Yao not know whether to laugh or cry. She could only comfort her. Mother, don't worry. It's a good thing that you're back. It's not your fault. It's the rules of the Palace of Darkness. Aren't they all fine now? Now think about it. Your mother is too weak. What rules? Yao Yao, you can ignore these rules. But I can't. Yi Waner blamed herself. It's not the same. Actually, Meng Yao smiled, comforting her. Mom, I've accepted the inheritance. That's why in the Palace of Darkness, their words carry enormous weight. But you didn't accept the inheritance, so it's not your fault. You've already accepted the inheritance? Yuan was a little surprised. He didn't expect Meng Yao to accept the inheritance so quickly. And so, only the Grand Elder would give me the greatest support and freedom. But you're different, so you don't have to blame yourself. Hurry up and find Daddy. He already knows that you're back. If you don't go now, he'll definitely come looking for you. Meng Yao said. You've already told him? Yi Waner was startled. Naturally, she knew how much Pingzhan cared about her. She could tell from the fact that Pengzhan hadn't had anything with other women in years, so it was possible that Pengzhan would come looking for her. So you need to make a decision quickly. Meng Yao said, "How about this, Yao Yao? Give me a few more days to get used to it. I've left the Palace of Darkness, and it's been a long time since I've come to the common world. I want to calm down for a few more days." Yuaner said. Then, all right. Meng Yao didn't force Yuaner anymore. She knew that her mother and herself were people with many things on their minds. They were always hesitating, just like how she was with Lin Yi. But after hanging up, Meng Yao dialed Pengzhan's number again. Sometimes, people with this kind of personality needed someone to add fuel to the fire. Meng Yao herself was the same. If it wasn't for Shu, she wouldn't have been able to confess to Lin Yi so smoothly. So, this time, she needed to be the one to add fuel to the fire. Yao Yao, how's it going? Did you find your mother? Pengzhan had been watching the phone the whole time. He quickly picked it up when Meng Yao called. Dad, go to the XX hotel opposite your company, room 2901. Don't tell anyone I told you. Meng Yao said, go to the hotel. Pengzhan paused and understood immediately. He smiled. All right, Yao Yao, I'll go right now. I won't tell your mother. You were the one who told me she was at the hotel. Huh? Meng Yao laughed. Actually, Yi Waner could guess it even if Pengzhan didn't tell her. After hanging up, Meng Yao let out a sigh of relief. Now that she was done, she needed to go back and call Shu. This call would probably last the whole night. This was one of the reasons why she called Shu in the end. Pengzhan quickly washed up and changed into a suit. He stood in front of the mirror and fixed his hair. In the past, Pengzhan cared a lot about his image. He would fix his hair properly when he went to business, but he had never been as serious as he was today. Pengzhan fixed his hair again and again. However, he couldn't help but sigh when he saw the white hair on his temples in the mirror. No matter what, he was old. In the blink of an eye, he became a middle-aged man. He wondered what Yuana looked like now. Although, in his impression, Yuana still looked like Meng Yao, Pengzhan knew that Yuana must be old now. However, no matter what Yuana looked like, Pengzhan's heart never changed. He couldn't wait to see Yuana. Finally, looking at the image in the mirror, Pengzhan was satisfied. He rushed out of the door and drove to the hotel opposite his company. However, when he passed by a vending machine, Pengzhan hesitated and stopped the car. He fiddled with the vending machine and got a small box. Chapter 3175. Pengzhan had already made up his mind. He was prepared to let Faubert or son Jingyi take care of the business, and then take Yuana on a trip to Las Vegas to reminisce about his youth. Although Mr. Yang had disappeared for a long time, Pengzhan couldn't forget those times. He parked the car in front of the hotel, and because his car was very high class, the security didn't question him. Pengzhan took the elevator to the 29th floor and came to room 2901. He was so excited that his breathing quickened. He reached out his hand, wanting to knock on the door, but couldn't bring himself to do so. Waner was a heaven-class early phase master. She could feel it immediately when someone approached the door. She thought it was a waiter, but after waiting for a long time, no one knocked on the door. The person at the door still hadn't left. Waner suspected that the person at the door was from the Dark Palace, so she didn't think much. She walked to the door and suddenly opened it. She wanted to see who was secretly following her. If it was the old Yuana, she wouldn't have done this. Although she was the palace master in name, the people under her didn't listen to her at all. They wouldn't care if she was being followed, but it was different now. Meng Yao had a firm foothold in the Dark Palace, and with that, these people had to respect Yuana. Otherwise, if they pissed Meng Yao off, they'd end up like Zhao Qibing cleaning the toilet. But when the door opened, Yuana froze when she saw the person at the door. Pengzhan didn't expect the door to open abruptly and jumped in fright. But when he saw Yuana in the room, he was stunned. Yuana looked the same as when she left. There weren't many changes, just like when she gave birth to Meng Yao. She'd seen Pengzhan from afar before, but this was the first time she'd seen him up close. She felt a little sad as she looked at Pengzhan's white sideburns. She'd been gone for so many years, leaving Pengzhan alone at home. He didn't even call. Yuana's tears fell like rain. Pengzhan, you're old. Haha, it's fine if I'm old, but you're not. An old man with a young wife, people would be envious. Peng Zhan smiled. But you wouldn't look down on me, would you? Yuan Er shook her head. I'm sorry. For so many years, I left you and Yao Yao here. You didn't have a choice, I understand. However, our daughter is very good. That Grand Elder is very good. Other than Mr. Yang, only Yao Yao can suppress her. Peng Zhan sighed, and Yuan couldn't hold it in any longer and threw herself into Peng Zhan's embrace. The two had been separated for more than 10 years, and now they were finally reunited. Peng Zhan held Yuan in his arms. After entering the room, he casually closed the door. Lingshan had been very troubled lately, for no other reason than that Tang Yuqi's pursuit was getting more and more obvious. Lingshan didn't know what to do. On one hand, Tang Yuqi was one of the best crime-solving experts. With him in the police force, Lingshan felt a lot less pressure. Tang Yuqi only needed to take a look at the cases, and he would be able to solve them easily. On the other hand, Tang Yuqi's salary was very low, the same as the police officers in the team. This made the people in the police force very satisfied with Tang Yuqi. Who wouldn't want such a cheap and capable employee? And so, Lingshan couldn't fire him even if she wanted to. She could only act like she didn't know anything about Tang Yuqi's pursuit. Lingshan, let's have dinner after work. Tang Yuqi finished his work and walked over with a smile. Last night, Tang Yuqi had just used a chi-gathering pill and successfully broke through to Sky Class early phase. In actuality, Tang Yuqi didn't want to use pills to level up, but for Lingshan, to make Lingshan think that he was strong, he had to use pills frequently. The resources of the association were very plentiful, and Tang Yuqi was a core member of the association, so he had quite a lot of them. Tang Yuqi heard from other people that Lingshan's criteria for a partner was to be stronger than her. That was why Tang Yuqi was in such a rush to level up. He wanted to increase the distance between him and Lingshan. Lingshan was an Earth Class early phase, and if he wanted to increase the distance between them, he had to be a Sky Class early phase. No, I still have things to do. Lingshan didn't even raise her head from the case file in her hands. I just broke through to Sky Class yesterday. As a colleague and a friend, aren't you going to help me celebrate? Tang Yuqi said. You broke through? Lingshan paused, a little surprised. Tang Yuqi had broken through so many times recently, and he was now a Sky Class? Wasn't this a little too fast? Yeah, so why don't we celebrate? Tang Yuqi smiled. I really have things to do today. I'll check the time after I'm done. Even so, Lingshan didn't want to go out alone with Tang Yuqi anymore. She knew what Tang Yuqi was trying to achieve, so she didn't want to eat alone with him anymore. There was already someone in her heart, and she couldn't accept Tang Yuqi anymore. I see. Then I'll wait for you. Tang Yuqi naturally didn't want to give up. Is there anything I can help with? These cases are from the past, and some of the victims' families have been asking about the progress. I want to rearrange these cases and see if there are any clues. Lingshan said, if you don't have anything else, I'll give you half of it, and you can look at it together. Okay. Tang Yuqi was speechless. Many of these cases that had been squeezed out in the past were years old. Looking at them now, not to mention so many cases, it was extremely difficult to find a clue to one of them. How long would it take to sort out all these clues and clues? How is this something that could be done in one night? But since Lingshan said that, there was nothing Tang Yuqi could do about it. He could be with Lingshan anyways. Working a little more wasn't a big deal. With that thought, Tang Yuqi picked up a couple of scrolls and started reading. Chapter 3176. Nah, I'll just order some takeout. Lingshan said. Lingshan, why are you always avoiding me? Tang Yuqi finally asked the question he'd been holding in his heart for a long time. He'd been trying his best to maintain his image in front of Lingshan all this time, and he'd found out about Lingshan's criteria for a mate as well. He felt that he fit the criteria perfectly, so he didn't understand why Lingshan wouldn't accept him. He and Lingshan were in the same line of work, and they had plenty of things in common. They were both practitioners, too, and he was stronger than Lingshan. These were all things that fit Lingshan's criteria for a mate, but why did Lingshan keep rejecting him? Tang Yuqi didn't think that he wasn't good enough. He felt that the problem lay with Lingshan, and so he gathered his courage to ask. Tang Yuqi. What do I want to say? Lingshan frowned. She'd always known that Tang Yuqi liked her, but this was the first time she'd talked about this so openly and honestly. Lingshan, I want to know, why do you keep rejecting me? Don't you understand what I'm thinking? I like you. Tang Yuqi said loudly. I'm staying here because of you. I feel like we're in the same line of work, and we're both practitioners. I've also heard that your criteria for a mate is that the man has to be stronger than you. I'm satisfied with all that. I don't understand. Why don't you respond to my advances? Tang Yuqi, I believe you've noticed that I've been avoiding this question ever since I found out about your feelings. You should know what I mean. Lingshan said. I didn't say it out loud because we're colleagues, hoping that you'd back off, but I didn't think that you'd do something like this. I didn't think that you'd get stronger and stronger. But since you've said it out loud today, I'll tell you that it's impossible between us. Why? There has to be a reason, right? Lingshan, there has to be a reason for rejecting me. I feel like we're a good match. There's nothing wrong with it. Tang Yuqi said, unwilling to give up. If I had to give you a reason, it would be that I already have someone I like. Lingshan looked at Tang Yuqi. She said firmly, I like him. Is that reason enough? But I've never seen him before. Are you lying to me, Lingshan? Tang Yuqi didn't really believe her. If there really is such a person, then why would he do that? I've been in the police force for quite some time now. It's impossible that I haven't seen them before, right? He was very busy and had many things to do, so I didn't disturb him. Lingshan said, Tang Yuqi, I can't deny that you're very good, but I'm speaking from a very fair perspective. He's much more powerful than you, so please let go of this matter. This is good for all of us. No, I don't believe it. Tang Yuqi said unwillingly, I'm a heaven stage expert, an expert in solving cases. How can he be better than me? Lingshan, don't lie to me. There's no such person, right? Sorry, I don't need to lie to you. Lingshan shrugged. Tang Yuqi, it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. In short, this person really exists. All right, Lingshan, since you say that he's stronger than me, then I'll challenge him to a duel. Let's see who's stronger. Tang Yuqi said, if he's stronger than me, then I'll accept it wholeheartedly. If he's weaker than me, Lingshan, I hope you can reconsider. Tang Yuqi, why are you so stubborn? Lingshan didn't know what to do, but Tang Yuqi's way of doing things was very gentlemanly, after all. He wanted to compete with Lin Yi, and even if he won, he'd only let Lingshan consider him. Lingshan really couldn't say anything harsh to him. I hope you'll give me this chance. Tang Yuqi said firmly. I can't promise you that. If you really want to challenge him, I can find some time to talk to him, but I can't guarantee that he'll accept it. Lingshan said, all right, if he's really as strong as you say, a big hero, then he'll definitely accept my challenge. He won't be a coward. Tang Yuqi knew how to provoke her, and Lingshan knew what he was thinking. She only smiled faintly and didn't take it to heart. In fact, Lingshan hadn't seen Lin Yi in a while, and she missed Lin Yi a lot. But she heard that Lin Yi was very busy these days, being a bodyguard for Su Shihan, and the company's new product was on the market. So she didn't want to disturb Lin Yi. She hadn't encountered any difficult cases that she couldn't solve, either. Tang Yuqi could take care of normal cases, and she didn't need Lin Yi's help. So there was no reason for Lingshan to ask Lin Yi for help. Now was an opportunity. Lin Yi wanted to challenge him, and Lingshan could use this to ask Lin Yi out and meet him. This was also why Lingshan agreed to help Tang Yuqi. I'll talk to him, Lingshan said. All right, if that's the case, then I won't pester you anymore. I'll take the case file back and look at it. If you want to stay in the office, then we can continue. I'll go back first. Tang Yuqi didn't pester her anymore after achieving his goal. Lingshan was a little surprised. She nodded. I'll look at it for a while. All right, see you tomorrow. Tang Yuqi didn't say much and left the office with the case file. After Tang Yuqi left, Lingshan sighed and called Lin Yi. Lingshan? Lin Yi was a little surprised when he picked up. Lingshan hadn't contacted him for a while. Is there another case you can't solve? Not really. Lingshan heard Lin Yi's words and felt a little embarrassed. It was as if she was useless. Every time she looked for Lin Yi, it was to solve a case. She quickly said, it's like this. There's a colleague in the police station who's chasing me. Colleague? Pursue you? Lin, he paused. You call me just to tell me this? Fine. I rejected him and told him that I already have someone I like, but he wants to challenge you. Lingshan said. Lin, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm a practitioner in a sky class at that. He wants to challenge me? Actually, he's a practitioner too, and a sky class. Lingshan smiled bitterly. Chapter 3177. It's like this. Lingshan didn't say anything about Tang Yin. He's actually a detective who came back from overseas, very famous. He came to our police station to fight, and he's only taking the salary of an assistant police officer, but he's working as an international detective. We were quite happy that he came, but who knew that his real goal was to pursue me, a sky class from overseas? Lin, he was even more confused. There's a sky class from overseas? And this heaven rank expert actually ran over here? That's right. He belongs to an organization called the Overseas Practitioners Association. His name is Tang Yuqi. Have you heard of him? Lingshan said. Tang Yuqi? Lin, he paused. This name was quite familiar. It took him a bit of time to remember who this person was. Back then, when he went to the movies with Meng Yao and the others, Pin Liang was there as well. He met someone called Tang Yuqi, an overseas detective. Lin Yi's impression of this person wasn't bad. Could this person be a villain? Yes, but this person isn't too bad. He's pursuing me, but he doesn't cross the line. He doesn't have any bad intentions. Lingshan said, you just need to teach him a lesson and let him back off. Huh? Why would I teach him a lesson? Lin Yi asked. Lingshan paused, annoyed. Then I'll say yes. What I mean is, you don't have to teach him a lesson. Lin Yi smiled. You're a bad person, Lingshan said angrily. The dummy girl doesn't want to dual cultivate with you anymore. Huh? Lin Yi smiled. If Su Shirhan goes out one day, ask him out. She's got a lot of enemies, after all. Things have calmed down for now, but I can't guarantee that no one will ambush her again. I can't leave her behind. All right, don't be the bodyguard and become your boyfriend, Lingshan said enviously. Just like Meng Yao. Yao Yao's gone. Lin Yi sighed. What? Gone? What do you mean? She's dead? Lingshan asked, shocked. Usually, when someone said gone with a heavy tone, it meant that the person had passed away. Lin Yi's tone wasn't very nice, so Lingshan couldn't be blamed for thinking too much. Puff. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I went to an ancient sect and became its successor, so I had no choice but to go there. I'll tell you about it when I have the time. She is also an inheritor? Lingshan was even more surprised. All right, let me know when you're free. Then, when you go out, just give me a call. Okay. Lin Yi nodded. The next morning, Lingshan told Tang Yuqi about the news. Otherwise, Tang Yuqi wouldn't be able to handle it. Tang Yuqi would still come and bother her. Why not give him a promise? Then, he had to wait patiently. He agreed? Good. I really didn't expect him to be the bodyguard of a superstar. This person's skills should be pretty good, but I'm a heaven rank expert. Is he that confident that he can beat me? Tang Yuqi said to himself. Lingshan told him that Lin Yi was Su Shirhan's bodyguard, and that he was busy these days, so he didn't come looking for her. With that, Tang Yuqi believed her. After all, when a superstar went out, a bodyguard had to be with them 24/7. He agreed, but don't get your hopes up. You're strong, but he's even stronger. Lingshan poured a bucket of cold water on Tang Yuqi. It's okay, I'll prove myself. Tang Yuqi was full of confidence. After Lin Yi agreed, he didn't bother him anymore and went to look at the case files. Lingshan was just about to sit down when her phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. She picked it up politely. Hello, I'm Donghai City's Lingshan from the police station. Her phone might be called by the victim's family or other kind citizens with clues, so Lingshan wouldn't miss a single call. Officer Song, hello. I'm Tang Yin's mother, Wang Yujia. Meng Yao gave me your number and told me to contact you directly. Mrs. Tang's voice came from the other side. Chapter 3178. And so, the two packed up and drove to the House of Six Tastes. There was a Jeep parked in front of the House of Six Tastes. It was a car Mrs. Tang had asked Shuigu to buy for her. Mrs. Tang had actually bought one for Lin Yi, and she'd thought it was a pretty good one. Shuigu was rich, so she wouldn't offend Mrs. Tang over such a small matter. So she bought it. Lingshan, right? Mrs. Tang had seen Lingshan before, and had some impression of her. She saw a pretty girl walking over with a young man who looked similar to Tang Juqing. That must be Tang Yuqi. Tang Juqing followed Mrs. Tang out of the car as well. Lingshan didn't say anything, but Tang Yuqi, who was beside her, was extremely excited. He ran over quickly when he saw Juqing because he could see his father's face. This was his second uncle, no doubt about it. It gave Juqing an innate sense of closeness. Second uncle. Tang Yuqi called out subconsciously. You're Yuqi, right? Juqing was filled with emotions. My brother, your father, is he doing well? Second uncle, my father is healthy, but he's getting old, and he's starting to reminisce about his hometown and you. He's just waiting for me to come back to look for him. I didn't think that with Ling Shan's help, we really did find him, Tang Yuqi said. Second uncle, what are you guys doing now? I heard from Ling Shan that it's a secret. Well, let's talk inside. Juqing looked at Mrs. Tang, not knowing how to answer. Yeah, second uncle, second aunt, look at me. I forget that we're at the entrance of a restaurant. I forgot that we are at the entrance of the restaurant. Please. Tang Yuqi made a gesture of invitation in embarrassment. The House of Six Tastes was one of the most popular restaurants in Donghai. It was a big place, but it didn't have private rooms. Only guests with VIP cards could reserve seats. Normal people couldn't reserve seats and had to wait. Fortunately, Lingshan was from House Song, a big family in the common world. It wasn't hard to get a membership card. The group entered the House of Six Tastes, but the disciple who was driving didn't follow. He knew his place and didn't dare act presumptuously in front of Annie Wong, who in the Snow Valley didn't know that Annie Wong was the boss. After ordering, Tang Juqing and Tang Yuqi started chatting again. Although the two of them had never met before, Tang Yuqi knew a lot about his father's childhood because of his father's request. Now that he was talking about it with Tang Juqing couldn't help but feel emotional. Lingshan and Wang Yujia, on the other hand, didn't interrupt, allowing the two to talk about family matters. After that, Tang Yuqi talked a lot about his father and him overseas. The relationship between the two families became closer in an instant. At this time, the dishes were served and everyone chatted while eating. The atmosphere was very harmonious. The matter of Lin Yi instantly killing two peak late-stage heaven-rank powerhouses spread in the ancient era, and the forces opposing Lin Yi all felt insecure. Other forces that had nothing to do with Lin Yi were also hesitating whether they should extend an olive branch to Lin Yi. As for those who were on good terms with Lin Yi, they were all very happy. However, as Lin Yi's follower, Feng Shipian wasn't very happy. Dongfang Xiaocui told Feng Shipian everything about her, hoping that he could ask Lin Yi to let Dongfang Xiaocui go. To be honest, Feng Shipian was very angry with Dongfang Xiaocui's doing. She wanted to kill her half-sister, and this sister couldn't threaten her or his position at all, but she still wanted to assassinate her. This made Feng Shipian feel that his mother was very brainless. So he only answered vaguely and didn't agree to help because he didn't know how to ask Lin Yi for this. He was Lin Yi's follower, yes, but asking for forgiveness for his mother's wrongdoing. Feng Shipian didn't think it was appropriate. After all, he and his father begged Lin Yi to help protect Su Shihan, and now he wanted Lin Yi to forgive the enemy that targeted Su Shihan. Wasn't this a conflict? But at the end of the day, Dongfang Xiaocui was Feng Shipian's mother, and Feng Shipian was a very kind person. Since he was willing to help Nitian get the medicine, he couldn't be cruel to his own mother. So, in the end, he still called Lin Yi. Shipian, how is it? Any news? Lin Yi picked up and asked. Boss, it's not that there's news, but there's something I don't know how to tell you. Feng Shipian was hesitant. What's wrong? What can't you say? Lin Yi was confused. Why are you being so polite with me? If you have something to say, just say it. It's like this, boss. The assassination against my sister was actually led by my mother. Feng Shipian said carefully. I know. Isn't your grandfather Dongfang Badeo from the Dongfang family? Lenny knew about this, but, I'm sorry, I killed your second uncle. Sweat. I don't have any feelings for them, and we haven't lived together since we were young. We rarely see each other. Feng Shipian said, what I mean is, can you forgive my mother? Don't kill her. Why would I kill her? Lin Yi heard Feng Shipian's words and suddenly froze. The thing against my sister was done by my mother, and now the ancient level has spread, saying that you can instantly kill 2 heaven-class late-phase peak masters, so my mother is afraid that you will take revenge on her. Feng Shipian explained. Shipian, I'm just Xiaoan's bodyguard. I only protect her and not let others hurt her. As for who is targeting her, I really don't need to take the initiative to find them. My purpose is to scare them, so that they don't cause trouble for Xiaohan. That's enough. After listening, Lin Yi said, and even if I want to find trouble, I will go to the Dongfang family, and not her. In fact, protecting Su Shihan was only Lin Yi's job, and the real enemy of Lin Yi was the Dongfang family. Lin Yi killed Dongfang Jian. This was a trouble that would not stop until he was dead. As for Dongfang Xiaotsue, without the Dongfang family, she was a poor woman. Then I'm relieved. Thank you, boss. Feng Shipian said with a sigh of relief. It's nothing, so Xiaohan is not in danger for the time being? Lin Yi asked. Chapter 3179. Not really. Xiaohan and I are good friends. I can't ignore her safety. Lin Yi said, I can just relax a bit. That's good. I'll let you know if there's anything new, Feng Shipian said. After hanging up the phone, Lin Yi told Shihan the news. Shihan was surprised and happy. So, I'm not in danger for now. I can go out for a walk. Of course. Lin Yi nodded. He could see that Shihan had been staying in the villa for a while. She must be bored. Now that she could relax, it was a good thing. Then, can you go out with me? I've been in Donghai for so long. I haven't gone out yet. Shihan said excitedly. The last time I came to Donghai, I ate at a restaurant called Six Taste House. It was very delicious. Can you bring me there? Su Shihan had been to Donghai City when she was the spokesperson for Fatty Lie's company. She had eaten at the Six Taste House once, and it made her forget to go home. This time in Donghai City, because someone was after her, she could only stay at home. Now that the danger was over, the first place she thought of was the Six Taste House. Okay, Lin Yi knew about Six Taste House, but he had never been there before. Faubert had bought takeout from Six Taste House and sent it to them. It was really good. Six Taste House usually didn't allow takeout, but Peng Zhan was the chairman of Donghai Chamber of Commerce. His status was different. Six Taste House was a business in Donghai. No matter how strict the rules were, it was impossible for them to not change. However, Lin Yi heard that people had to line up to get a table, and they couldn't book a table in advance. It was almost noon, so he went there now. He had to line up, so Lin Yi had no choice but to call Han Xiaopa and ask him to book a table. After the collapse of the Hidden House Zhao, the Hidden House Han became the biggest family in Donghai, so House Han was very powerful in Donghai. Booking a table in Six Taste House was a piece of cake. It didn't take long for Han Xiaopa to call back, giving him the number of the table. In the Six Taste House, there were 2 tables for VIPs in case of emergencies. These 2 tables could not be used no matter how many people there were. Instead, it was specially provided for VIPs. Of course, the number of VIP cards issued by the residents of Six Tastes was limited. 2 tables were enough. It was rare for the restaurant to be fully occupied, but today, it gave the boss of the residents of Six Tastes a headache. Early in the morning, 2 VIP tables were booked. If another table of distinguished guests came, there would really be no seats left. Although this kind of situation was rare, the boss of the residents of Six Tastes had to be prepared for a rainy day. He still reserved an ordinary seat nearby. Even if no one made an appointment, the reputation of the residents of Six Tastes couldn't be lost. Lin Yi brought Su Shihan, Cheng Yi, and Yushu to the house of Six Tastes. Perhaps Yushu knew her fate. Therefore, he was not as enthusiastic about going to school as before. He would go to school when he had nothing to do. If he had something to do, he wouldn't go. Lin Yi parked the car in front of the residence of Six Tastes and walked straight into the restaurant. However, at the entrance, he was stopped by the waiter. Sir, please go to the ATM over there to get a number. Thank you. I have a reservation. The person who made the reservation is Han Xiaopa. Lin Yi said. Ah, it's Mr. Han who made the reservation. Please come in. The waiter had obviously been informed by the boss before. After hearing Lin Yi said that it was Han Xiaopa who made the reservation, he immediately warmly welcomed Lin Yi in. Lin Yi brought Su Shihan, Cheng Yi, and Yushu to the VIP table number 2 under the waiter's guidance. However, just as he walked over, Lin Yi was stunned, because Lin Yi saw 3 familiar faces at the VIP table number 1. One was Song Lingshan, the other was Tang Yuqi, who he met at the theater, and the last person shocked Lin Yi, because that person was from Shiwegu. At this moment, Song Lingshan and the others also saw Lin Yi walking in. Song Lingshan was also a little shocked. If it was any other day, she would be very happy to see Lin Yi. But today, the person she didn't want to see the most was Lin Yi. There was no other reason. Meng Yao had repeatedly told her to keep Tang Yun's matter secret. But now Lin Yi met her. On the other hand, Tang Yuqi obviously didn't know that Lin Yi was Song Lingshan's lover. He was a detective, and his memory was very good. Naturally, he had an impression of Lin Yi. He knew that he met this person at the theater, so he politely nodded to Lin Yi. Mrs. Tang and Tang Juqing, on the other hand, felt a little awkward and nervous. Tang Juqing didn't have his own opinion, so he could only look at Mrs. Tang for help, hoping that she could solve this problem. Lingshan, are you here? Annie Wang, why are you here? Aren't you the patrolling watcher? Lin Yi was confused, but he didn't mention anything about Shiwegu. After all, he didn't know if Mrs. Tang had told Song Lingshan and Tang Yuqi about her identity, so Lin Yi only told them about her weird position. Mrs. Tang was a smart person. She understood immediately that Lin Yi didn't remember Tang Yun or anything related to her. Tang Yun was always by her side when she interacted with Lin Yi. She and Lin Yi basically didn't do anything that left a deep impression, so it was impossible for Lin Yi to know her. He wouldn't remember Tang Yun, so Mrs. Tang wasn't nervous. Ah, so it's Lin Yi. Annie Wang came from Shiwegu this time for some private business. Your husband's nephew came back from overseas, and with Officer Song's help, we got in touch, so we're having a meal together, Mrs. Tang explained. Lin Yi nodded. He was a little confused as to how Lingshan knew that Mrs. Tang was from Shiwegu, but it wasn't a good time to ask. He only nodded. My friend and I are also here for a meal. I won't disturb you then, Annie Wang. Thank you for taking care of me in Shiwegu. Today's meal is on me. It's fine. Annie can reimburse you. Mrs. Tang waved her hand. You've already invited your auntie. Annie has this bit of power in Shiwegu. To Mrs. Tang, she would be an idiot if she didn't take advantage of the situation. Shiwegu was trying its best to please her, so naturally, she wouldn't hold back. Chapter 3180. Yushu knew Mrs. Chun and gave her a look, but she didn't go over to greet her. Lingshan, second aunt, you guys seem to know that guy? Tang Yuqi was a little confused about Lin Yi's identity. He's the guy I told you about. Lingshan said. Didn't you notice? The girl with the sunglasses and pink coat beside him is Su Shihan. Oh, right? You just came back from overseas, so it's normal that you don't know her. Su Shihan? I've heard of him. He's very famous. Tang Yuqi frowned. He's your boyfriend? She was a little embarrassed to admit that she had a relationship with Lin Yi in front of Mrs. Tang. Mrs. Tang's face was a little weird as well. Although Lin Yi didn't remember Tang Yun anymore, Tang Yun still liked Lin Yi, and so Mrs. Tang paid extra attention to the people around Lin Yi. Mrs. Tang suddenly understood why Lingshan had been so polite to her. It seemed that Lingshan had been treating her like a junior, after all. I'm not really his boyfriend. I just like him, but I haven't confessed yet. He actually has a girlfriend, but she left, so I'm just a mistress, Lingshan said. Lingshan's words made Mrs. Tang happy. It seemed like Lingshan knew her place well enough. Mrs. Tang wasn't afraid of Lin Yi finding a mistress, a mistress, a mistress, a mistress, or mistress. After all, Tang Yun allowed it. What she was afraid of was women who didn't know their place and wanted to replace him. Mrs. Tang was very satisfied with Lingshan's performance and started to like her. But she couldn't help her nephew, Tang Yuqi. What? You're just a mistress? Tang Yuchi was furious. Is this guy that good? I can't take it anymore. I want to challenge him right now. Lingshan, I'll show you that there are people better than him out there. Tang Yuchi couldn't be blamed for being so agitated. He heard that Lingshan was willing to be a mistress. So how good did this Lin Yi have to be? And so he wasn't satisfied. He even ignored second uncle and second aunt beside him. He only wanted to see who was better than Lin Yi. You have to finish eating first, right? Lingshan didn't stop him. She knew that if she didn't let Tang Yuchi challenge Lin Yi, he wouldn't give up. He'd only give up if he lost wholeheartedly. Therefore, it was a good idea to challenge Lin Yi as soon as possible. However, he was currently having dinner with Mrs. Tang's family. How could he challenge at midway? I'm sorry, uncle, auntie, I forgot my manners, Tang Yuchi said, feeling a little embarrassed. He just remembered that he was meeting relatives. Why did he have to challenge people in the middle of a meal? It doesn't matter. Although I just met you, I want to say that some things are a matter of fate. There's no point in forcing it, Mrs. Tang said to Tang Yuchi. Tang Yuchi was slightly taken aback. He looked at Lingshan, and his heart ached. He swore in his heart that he'd prove that he was stronger than Lin Yi. This topic ended here. Tang Yuchi did not continue. Instead, he changed the topic and asked second uncle. Uncle, auntie, I heard you guys say that you're from Shuigu now. The Shuigu is? Yuchi, I heard from Lingshan that you're a practitioner, right? You belong to the Overseas Practitioners Association, so you must have heard of the ancient sects, right? Mrs. Tang asked. That's right. I've heard that there are some ancient sects here. Could Shuigu be one of them? Tang Yuchi wasn't stupid. He didn't know much about the ancient sects here, but from what Mrs. Tang said, it had to be Shuigu. Yes, I'm your second uncle's daughter, and I'm an elder of Shuigu. I'm like a housekeeper there, and I usually accompany your cousin with Uncle Tang. Mrs. Tang introduced. I see. Doesn't that mean that you guys can't leave Shuigu as you please? Tang Yuchi was a little disappointed. If that was the case, then even if his father came back, he wouldn't be able to see Juqing's family all the time. He'd still have to live alone, and he didn't know anyone here. What was the point of that? But Tang Yuchi knew that these big sects had very strict rules, and it wasn't something that could be changed by one person. This meeting was probably going to be hard to come by. We can leave. Mrs. Tang saw through Tang Yuchi's worry and smiled. But we just want to accompany your cousin. She's a girl, after all, and she has no one to rely on. But the best way is for Big Brother to come back and live in Shuigu as well. That way, you can come visit us when you miss us, and you can still work on your own business. That's fine. Tang Yuchi was surprised and happy. Even when he was abroad, he didn't see his father often. After all, he was a famous detective, and he was commissioned to go to crime scenes all over the country. He didn't spend much time at home. This was also the reason why his father didn't want to find his younger brother. An old man without a companion was really lonely. Tang Yuchi also knew that he often didn't return home for a month or two, so he actively came here to help him find his family. But Shuigu is a big sect, and there are so many rules. Can my father live there? Of course you can. Don't underestimate your cousin. She's the only elder in the sect other than the Grand Elder. She's on equal footing with the Valley Master of Shuigu, and your second aunt status in Shuigu is also very high. Most people have to listen to her, so don't worry. After Big Brother goes there, it won't be a problem at all, and we'll have a companion. Mrs. Tang explained. That's good. I'll ask my father to come back and go with you. This way, the old man won't be lonely anymore, and I'll visit you when I'm free. There's nothing to worry about, Tang Yuchi quickly said. All right, you can contact Big Brother. We'll wait for him here. Mrs. Tang said. Tang Yuchi didn't think that things would go so smoothly. He finally felt relieved. On Lin Yi's side, Su Shirhan and Cheng Yi didn't ask about Mrs. Tang's situation. Su Shirhan received Shu's eye signal and knew that things were complicated, so she didn't ask much and focused on the food in front of her. Chapter 3181. The meal was very enjoyable, but after the meal, Tang Yuchi did not leave. He had been waiting for Lin Yi at the door, and Mrs. Tang and Tang Juqing did not leave either. They were actually a little worried that Lin, Yi, and Tang Yuqi's fight would hurt the harmony between them. After all, there were some things that Mrs. Tang could not say directly. She could not tell Tang Yuqi about Lin Yi's identity, let alone Lin Yi. Therefore, she could only think of a way to smooth things over when they fought, so that her nephew and son-in-law would not hurt the harmony between them. However, Mrs. Tang was relieved that Tang Yuqi and Lin Yi were not the kind of people who could not afford to lose. Tang Yuqi wanted a challenge, but it could be seen that he was a very upright person. If he lost, he would probably not continue to pester them. Lin Yi, I've heard a lot about you. I want to challenge you. I don't know if you will give me this opportunity. At the door of the home of 6 tastes, Tang Yuqi said directly to Lin Yi. Okay, there's no time like the present. Let's do it today. Lin Yi nodded. Let's find a place with no one around. How are we going to compete? You just make the rules. We're all cultivators. Whoever gets knocked down can either get up or admit defeat. However, fists and feet have no eyes. Even if we don't want to take each other's lives, it's inevitable that we'll get injured. However, I have the minor revitalization pill and the great revitalization pill here, so you don't have to worry. Hearing Tang Yuqi's words, Lin Yi was a little surprised. He actually provided pills to his opponent. This Tang Yuqi seemed to be a really honest person. However, the more he was like this, the happier Lin Yi was. After all, Aunt Wong had helped him a lot in Snow Valley, and he did not want to become enemies with her relatives. Sure, but I don't need pills. Lin Yi smiled. You mean the person who will be injured will definitely be me? Tang Yuqi's expression changed, but he did not lose his temper. He only said, it's good to be confident. We'll only know after the competition. Lingshan, naturally, knew that Tang Yuqi had misunderstood Lin Yi's intentions. Lin Yi could heal himself, and I didn't need medicine at all, but she couldn't explain it. I know an abandoned construction site nearby. Let's go there. Sure. Lin Yi and Tang Yuqi both nodded. And so, Lingshan's car led the way, with Mrs. Tang's and Lin Yi's 2 jeeps following behind, heading towards the construction site. Dragon Throne full text reading, however, when they were on the road. Lin Yi's keen senses told him that they were being followed. Although Lin Yi didn't know where the stalker was. For the time being, he didn't know how strong the other party was. However, there was no need to think about it. To be able to hide from him and follow him, the other party must have extraordinary strength. Most likely, the other party's strength was above his. However, Lin Yi was troubled as well. Who was following them? According to what Feng Shipian had said, his enemies from the ancient sects were all afraid that he would cause trouble for them. Who would dare to cause trouble for him? Plus, Lin Yi's jade didn't react at all, so it seemed like there was no danger. Could it be that this person's target wasn't him? Or was he further away? Or was this person's target Tang Yuqi? Even Lin Yi found the thought funny. After all, among these people, there was only one. Other than Tang Yuqi and the driver disciple, they were all people that Lin Yi had tacitly accepted. They were Lin Yi's teammates, and the jade would warn them if they were in danger. Evidently, there wasn't, so it could only be Tang Yuqi and that disciple. But what kind of enemies would these two have? One was a detective who had returned from overseas, and the other was a disciple randomly sent by the Snow Valley. The stalker was obviously an expert, and the possibility of targeting these 2 people was very low. But no matter what, Lin Yi didn't let his guard down at all, and continued to search for the direction of the stalker. Along the way to the abandoned, unfinished building site, Lin Yi didn't find anyone following them. This made Lin Yi even more fearful, but on the surface, he still pretended to be very calm. He couldn't be flustered. Now that the ancient level had spread, he was a ruthless person who could kill 2 experts at the peak of the late stage of Heaven Stage in seconds. At least at the level that he could come into contact with, there were no Heavenly Tao experts, and experts at the peak of the late stage of Heaven Stage in great perfection were the kings of cultivators. But for Lin Yi, this level of strength should not be too difficult to kill. In that case, even if he was followed, Lin Yi couldn't be nervous, otherwise it would expose his own weakness. Of course, Lin Yi didn't get out of the car immediately, because he felt that the danger was getting stronger and stronger. It seemed that this person was waiting for an opportunity to make a move after they stopped the car. Lin Yi was observing. He had to control the danger within a controllable range. On Tang Yuqi's side, he got out of the car first, but just as he got out, a black shadow flew towards him. Lin Yi was shocked, but he didn't dare to make a move. After all, Lin Yi saw clearly at this moment that the person in front of him actually had the strength of the peak of the late stage of Heaven Stage. After all, Tang Yuqi was also a Heaven Stage expert, and he was a detective. His sixth sense was not ordinary. When he felt danger, he suddenly used his true energy to protect his body and began to choose to retreat and dodge. But the strength of the other party was too strong. Even if Tang Yuqi dodged, he still couldn't completely avoid it. A palm hit Tang Yuqi's left shoulder, and Tang Yuqi's whole body was hit by this powerful force and flew out, crashing into a wall of the unfinished building. The huge impact made Tang Yuqi's body like a cannonball, directly smashing a big hole in the wall, and his whole body also fell into the unfinished building. But in this way, the black shadow lost the target of attack, and temporarily couldn't find Tang Yuqi in his line of sight. He could only stop his attack and wait for Tang Yuqi to run out of the unfinished building himself. Otherwise, he couldn't just attack the unfinished building directly, right? This created a chance for Tang Yuqi to survive, and he didn't die here. Who are you? How dare you hurt someone? Mrs. Tang was both shocked and angry. Tang Yuqi was her husband's long-lost nephew, and now that he had been injured in front of her, she could not just sit by and do nothing. I'm the inspector of the Snowy Valley, and also the Great Elder's mother. What are your intentions in injuring my nephew for no reason? Chapter 3182. Although he didn't hear clearly what position she held in the Snow Valley, the identity of the Great Elder's mother was enough to make pure cold master worry. He was from the everyday and everyday sect, but the Snow Valley wasn't weak either. Tang Yuqi once disrespected the mad dragon patriarch of our everyday and everyday sect. I was ordered to kill him. Even if you're from the Snow Valley, don't meddle in other people's business. This is an order issued by our patriarch. If you insist on interfering, then you'll be fighting to the death with our everyday and everyday sect. Pure Cold Celestial had come with a mission, so she naturally wouldn't back down easily. What? You are from the everyday and everyday sect. Mrs. Tang furrowed her brows. She had been in the ancient world for a long time now, and naturally knew what the everyday after sun sect represented. Although she could do whatever she wanted in Snow Valley, she didn't have much confidence in the everyday after sun sect. Although the Snow Valley was powerful, it was still a far cry from the everyday and everyday sect. So Mrs. Tang didn't know if she should interfere or not. Regardless, Tang Yuqi was Tang Juqing's nephew. How could he watch him get killed? But if she interfered, it would be equivalent to inviting a strong enemy for the Snow Valley. Mrs. Tang wasn't afraid of causing trouble for the Snow Valley, but she was afraid that this trouble would affect Tang Yun. So Mrs. Tang was in a dilemma. When Lin Yi heard that the person who came was from the everyday and everyday sect, he hesitated slightly and got out of the car. Although it was a bit risky, Lin Yi could see Mrs. Tang's dilemma. When he was in Snowy Valley, Mrs. Tang had helped him a lot. At this time, it was time for him to repay her. Although Tang Yuqi could be said to be Lin Yi's love rival, he was still a good person. He was also Mrs. Tang's nephew. Lin Yi had to take care of him. Opening the door and getting out of the car, Lin Yi glanced at the black figure and revealed his early Heaven Stage strength. He said indifferently to the black figure, Tang Yuqi was about to spar with me. You injured him. What's going on? Where did you come from? Pure Cold Heavenly Venerate was slightly taken aback. Seeing that Lin Yi was an early heaven rank expert, he didn't take it to heart. However, Mother Tang had said that she was from the Snow Valley. In Pure Cold Celestial's opinion, an expert like Lin Yi should also be from the Snow Valley, although he felt that he could kill Lin Yi. But his purpose in descending the mountain was to kill Tang Yuqi, not to start a feud with the Snow Valley, so he did not attack Lin Yi. He only snorted coldly and said, What? Do you have a problem with that? I tell you, mind your own business. The matters of the everyday and everyday sect are not something you can interfere with. Seeing that pure, cold, heavenly venerate was very arrogant, Lin Yi was immediately amused. He smiled and said, "The everyday and tomorrow sect, right? I really do have a problem with you guys. It's not just 1 or 2 days." "Oh, brat, say it like that. Do you want to cause trouble?" Pure, cold, heavenly venerate looked at Lin Yi coldly. He didn't want to cause trouble, but it didn't mean that he could tolerate it. His gaze and tone of voice towards Lin Yi were a little unfriendly. "That's right." Lin Yi nodded indifferently. "Your everyday and tomorrow sect is good. Previously, you sent Zhang Naipeo to go against me. I admit it. Who asked me to have a grudge with his boss, Zhong Pingliang. However, a few days ago, you sent some pure, heavenly venerate to find trouble with me. I killed him, and now another one? Do you want to die too?" You are." Pure, cold, celestial master broke out in a cold sweat. His clothes were all wet at this moment. His face became extremely pale, and he almost fell to the ground on his buttocks. If it was any other time, if an early heaven rank expert dared to talk nonsense in front of him, he would have already taken action. Threatening him was courting death. He would most likely kill that person first. But things were different now, because Lin Yi's words had revealed his identity. He was the person that the Mad Dragonal Master had warned them not to provoke, the person that they had to hide from, the person that had traumatized Zhang Naipeo, the person that had killed the pure Yin and Dongfang Yinxing in one hit. "Lin Yi, what am I?" Lin Yi looked at pure, cold, heavenly venerate with a faint smile. "That, Senior Lin Yi, I was wrong. I didn't know you were here. If I had known, wouldn't I be a fool if I still came? I don't want to die. I was just joking. Yes, it was just a joke." Pure, cold, heavenly venerate stuttered a little. "I have a small Huan pill here. Get it to him. After eating it, he can return to the market. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. You come and go as you please?" Lin Yi asked, "What's your purpose in coming down the mountain this time?" I came out to be a bystander." Pure, cold, heavenly venerate suddenly had an idea and said, "There's no more bystander in a mountain gate, so I came out to be a bystander." Yes, to be a bystander. He had heard people say something about being a bystander, but he didn't know the real meaning. He thought it really meant being a bystander, so he quickly said so. After saying that, he even praised himself. "I'm so smart." "Who are you lying to?" Lin Yi asked lightly. "If you don't want to die, tell me the truth." "Yes." "Okay, actually, it was the Mad Dragon ancestor who asked me to kill Tang Yuqi." Pure, cold, heavenly venerate said. "Why?" Lin Yi asked. He really couldn't figure out how Tang Yuqi could make a sect's ancestor remember him and send someone to kill him. It said that he humiliated our ancestor. "I don't know anything else." Pure, cold, heavenly venerate naturally didn't dare to easily reveal Zhong Pingliang's identity. This was a big secret of the sect. Fortunately, Lin Yi didn't ask much, because Lin Yi couldn't guess what the relationship between Mad Dragon Ancestor and Zhong Pingliang was. "All right, Scram. I'll protect Tang Yuqi. Go back and tell your ancestor that if he sends more people, I'll go to his door." Lin Yi said, "I'll kill all of you, even if I have to pay a price." "That's right. Yes, I'll get lost now." Pure, cold, heavenly venerate nodded quickly. He didn't even have the courage to talk to Lin Yi directly. He took out a small rejuvenation pill from his arms, put it on the ground, and then quickly disappeared on the spot. Lin Yi looked at the back of pure, cold, heavenly venerate and breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that he had successfully deceived this person. After a while, Lin Yi no longer felt like he was being followed and monitored. It seemed that pure, cold, heavenly venerate had really left. Chapter 3183. He knew that the other party was an expert at the peak of the late stage of heaven rank. Tang Yuqi was heavily injured in just one exchange, even when he was on guard. If he did it again, wouldn't he be as good as dead? Therefore, Tang Yuqi really didn't dare to go out at will. He just hid in the unfinished building and waited for pure, cold Tianzuan to leave before daring to come out. However, he was a little ashamed. Lin Yi was also an expert at the early stage of heaven rank, but he dared to stay calm in front of pure cold Tianzuan, an expert at the peak of the late stage of heaven rank. However, what shocked Tang Yuqi the most was that Lin Yi was not afraid of pure cold Tianzuan, but pure cold Tianzuan was actually afraid of Lin Yi. Moreover, she was so afraid that she was trembling. Listening to Lin Yi, it seemed that Lin Yi and the everyday sect had a deep hatred. Moreover, Lin Yi had killed people from their sect. Pure cold Tianzuan, an expert at the peak of the late stage of heaven rank, was actually afraid of being killed by Lin Yi. Wasn't Lin Yi's strength already heaven-defying? However, Lin Yi was indeed only an expert at the early stage of heaven rank, which made Tang Yuqi very puzzled. However, since he was a detective, his brain was very good, and his logical thinking was very strong. From the short conversation between pure cold Tianzuan and Lin Yi, he could judge that Lin Yi's strength was definitely not limited to what he saw at present. Eat this small rejuvenation pill. When you recover, we will compete again. Lin Yi pointed to the small rejuvenation pill left by pure cold Tianzuan on the ground and said, "Thank you." Although half of Tang Yuqi's shoulder was broken, he could still walk. He endured the pain and nodded to Lin Yi, then picked up the small rejuvenation pill and swallowed it. Now his injury was enough for the small rejuvenation pill, so there was no need for the great rejuvenation pill. Tang Yuqi did not say much and quickly refined the small rejuvenation pill. His injury was also under control, but his injury could not be healed in an instant. He also needed to rest for a while. Now, he definitely could not compete. You go back and rest first. Whenever you want to compete, just let me know. Lin Yi's impression of Tang Yuqi wasn't bad, but he couldn't give Lingshan to him just because of that. To tell the truth, Lin Yi had very special feelings for Lingshan, and the two of them had been through a lot together. Asking Lin Yi to give her away to someone else was evidently out of the question. There's no need to compete. However, Tang Yuqi said, "Mr. Lin, I know that I'm lacking, but that's just what happened just now. Facing the expert from the everyday sect. I'm far from you. He's afraid of you. This proves that you have the strength to make him fear you. Otherwise, with his strength, there is no need for him to be so afraid, and there is no need for him to lower himself to you. But to me, he was an expert who could kill me with a wave of his hand. That's why I'm inferior to you." Huh? Lin Yi smiled. From the looks of it, Tang Yuqi wasn't a stubborn person. He was a very logical person, and after knowing the gap between them, he wouldn't continue. "Lingshan, I wish you happiness." Tang Yuqi turned to Lingshan. "This time I'm convinced." "Tang Yuqi, actually, you're a good person." Lingshan was a little embarrassed. "All right, I've received a good person card." Tang Yuqi sighed and smiled. "But, Captain Song, I still want to stay here. After all, my father is coming, and it's not very practical for me to go overseas and be a detective. You won't fire me, will you?" "Of course I wouldn't reject a cheap detective like you working for me." Lingshan smiled. Since Tang Yuqi said that, naturally, Lingshan couldn't just kick him out. If he wanted to stay, then so be it. She could see that Tang Yuqi was a man of his word. "All right, then we'll go back first. Ani Wang, if you're not busy, why don't you come to my villa? Lingshan knows the place." Lin Yi invited. After all, Ani Wang had helped Lin Yi a lot back in Snowy Valley, and Lin Yi had always been very grateful to her. But now, Lin Yi knew that Ani Wang and Tang Yuqi had just met. She'd definitely discuss things with Tang Yuqi first, and there was no way she'd leave Tang Yuqi at her house. "I won't be going. I'll be going back to Snowy Valley after I'm done here." Actually, Mrs. Tang wasn't in a hurry. She just didn't want to interact with Lin Yi too much. She didn't want Lin Yi to remember things from the past. If that happened, then Tang Yun's efforts would be wasted. "All right, then we'll meet again when we have the chance." Lin Yi didn't force it. He thought that Mrs. Tang was busy. Lingshan went back alone, and Mrs. Tang and Tang Juqing went with Tang Yuqi to find a place to catch up and discuss the matter of Juqing's brother coming back. Lin Yi, on the other hand, drove Su Shirhan, Cheng Yi, and Yushu back to the villa. Dongfang Xiaotsue was a woman who couldn't keep her mouth shut. After obtaining Lin Yi's forgiveness, the worry on her face disappeared. Not only that, she felt that she was very arrogant. There was no other reason. Lin Yi was famous in the ancient world, and no one dared to mess with him. Now that she was the mother of Lin Yi's follower, Feng Shipian, she seemed to have a relationship with Lin Yi, and so she felt that she was also a very arrogant person. Dongfang Xiaocui's attitude made Feng Tianhu feel that something was wrong. He was worried about Lin Yi's matter, and suddenly seeing Dongfang Xiaocui, who was on the same boat as him, so he felt that something was wrong. And so, when there was no one around, Feng Tianhu blocked Dongfang Xiaocui's way. "Sister-in-law, you've been very happy these days." "Ah, Tianhu, what are you doing?" Dongfang Xiaocui was shocked by Feng Tianhu's sudden appearance. "Nothing, I'm just wondering. I heard that Lin Yi is coming to teach us a lesson. Why are you still so happy? I just wanted to remind you, and we can discuss how to deal with it." Feng Tianhu said, as if he was telling the truth. You're lying." Dongfang Xiaocui didn't have any tricks up her sleeves. After being scared by Feng Tianhu, she immediately told the truth. "Shipian already called Lin Yi, and Lin Yi said that he won't vent his anger on me. Even if he wants revenge, he'll go to House Dongfang first. Not me. Stop scaring people." Chapter 3184. I must have misheard. Dongfang Xiaocui didn't know that Feng Tianhu was testing her, so she nodded with certainty. All right then, sister-in-law, you can continue with your work. Pretend I didn't say anything, Feng Tianhu said with a smile. Then I'll go first, Dongfang Xiaocui said and turned to leave. Feng Tianhu, on the other hand, fell into deep thought again. Many people were like this. They had no memory and forgot the pain once the scar healed. Feng Tianhu's mind started to work again when he heard that there was nothing else. Of course, he didn't want to go against Lin Yi. He didn't have the guts. The person he wanted to go against was still Feng Tianlin. He wanted to take over the position of the young master of the Feng family. Feng Tianhu was very sullen now. He talked to the everyday and everyday sect, but they didn't pay attention to him. It was obvious that they didn't think he was qualified. "Someone come," Feng Tianhu yelled after returning to his room. "Boss!" A man in black suddenly appeared in Feng Tianhu's room. These years, Feng Tianhu had some people under him. These people were his secret forces. He didn't expose them and didn't dare to use them easily. Usually, these people were just gathering information for him. "How's the thing I asked you to investigate?" Feng Tianhu glanced at the man in black and asked, "Did you find Feng Tianlin's previous woman?" "Boss, I have some clues, but I'm not sure where exactly." The man in black said, "According to the investigation, the last place that woman appeared should be Songshan City, and then she disappeared, but we can't rule out the possibility that she left secretly. However, our people have been secretly investigating the woman who suddenly appeared in Songshan City in the past few years." "Oh, Songshan?" Feng Tianhu frowned slightly. To be honest, the two cities he was most wary of were Donghai and Songshan, since they were Lin Yi's base. If there wasn't a need to, he didn't want his people to step into these two cities and interact with Lin Yi again. But now it seemed that he had to go to these two cities again to investigate. So he said, "You've done a good job, but you have to be careful. When investigating, you must avoid a person named Lin Yi. Don't get into conflict with this person." "I understand, boss." The man in black nodded. "The news of the ancient level has already spread. That Lin Yi can instantly kill two peak late-stage heaven-rank powerhouses. We naturally won't clash with such an expert. I trust you guys. Go. Let me know as soon as you have any news," Feng Tianhu said. "Yes." The black-robed man clasped his fist. Feng Tianhu, on the other hand, was deep in thought. He was waiting for a chance to bring down Feng Tianlin and Feng Nitian, but it was obvious that these two would be happy because of Lin Yi, so Feng Tianlin chose to endure it for now. Little Peach's impression of Kong Xiaobo wasn't bad. Maybe it was because of Tian Chan's reminder, but Little Peach paid special attention to Kong Xiaobo. Once a woman paid special attention to a man, and the man was very outstanding, The chances of this woman falling in love with this man were very high. There was a very high chance that this woman would fall in love with this man. This was especially true for a woman like Little Peach, who had just been emotionally hurt and wanted to walk out of the shadows. Of course, Little Peach's business ability was also very strong. Kong Xiaobo also relied on her a lot. Some of the core businesses in the company were also involved. This way, Little Peach really found out that Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company had nothing to do with the cauldron manufacturing. There was no information about the cauldrons here, and there were no production records either. What was certain was that the cauldrons weren't made here. This made Little Peach sigh in relief. After all, she didn't want to lie to Kong Xiaobo. This way, she didn't have to sell anything. Although Tian Chan would help her take some pressure, if Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company really made the cauldrons, Kong Ming would definitely force her to steal the information. Kong bro, Little Peach's phone rang. It was Kong Ming. She quickly adjusted her emotions and picked up the phone. Little Peach sis, how is it? Do you have any clues? Kong Ming asked passionately. Kong bro, I'm starting to take charge of the core business of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, but I didn't find any information about the cauldron's production. I didn't see any production records either, Little Peach said, so I'm sure that this place hasn't produced any cauldrons. Kong bro, you should give up on this place. Oh? No. Kong Ming was a little disappointed. In fact, he could more or less guess this result. After all, Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company was a production line. He was sure that this cauldron was produced by House Lu's electronics factory. It was reasonable that there wasn't any information here. However, Kong Ming naturally wouldn't let Little Peach give up. He didn't want her to return to the Heavenly Elixir sect. It wasn't easy to kill this person. She was an eyesore in front of him. If it affected his relationship with Little 11 and caused Elder Xinshin to be wary, then it wouldn't be worth it. So, Kong Ming said directly, Little Peach, don't give up. You should continue to stay there. This cauldron might be a core secret. It can't be displayed in front of normal employees. How about this? You should continue to stay there. I think that you might need 3 to 5 years to get to know these secrets. Little Peach, if you want to be with me, you have to be prepared to be a spy for a long time. Do you understand? Okay, Kong bro. Little Peach will continue to stay here and find out more about this cauldron. Little Peach quickly nodded. However, she was very disdainful in her heart. Ever since she knew about Kong Ming's ugly face, she knew that Kong Ming was just playing with her. Be with her? He just wanted her to stay away from him, so that she wouldn't interfere with Kong Ming's good things. However, staying here was also Little Peach's intention. During this period of time, she had a very good impression of Kong Xiaobo. Although she knew that Kong Xiaobo had a girlfriend, Little Peach was a person from the ancient era. She didn't have the concept of monogamy, so this didn't affect her liking for Kong Xiaobo. Chapter 3185. And then I know. Peach Blossom pretended to be very serious and replied. Kong Ming hung up the phone with satisfaction. On Little Peach's side, she was also relieved. She put away her phone and was about to turn around and leave the secretary's office. When she turned around, she saw Kong Xiaobo standing at the door of the secretary's office with a gloomy face. Kong! President Kong! Little Peach was shocked. She stood on the spot, dumbfounded. She didn't expect that her phone call would be discovered by Kong Xiaobo. Tao Xiaohong, don't you want to explain this matter to me? Kong Xiaobo's face was very ugly. He didn't expect that his secretary was actually a spy. Who was the brother Kong on the other side of the phone? President Kong, I was wrong. I shouldn't have hidden it from you. But I really have no malicious intent towards you and the company. Not even a little bit. Little Peach cried and was at a loss. Kong Ming couldn't help but frown. He didn't expect Little Peach to cry first. Kong Xiaobo was also a soft-hearted person. Like boss, like little brother. He also couldn't bear to see a woman cry. Although he was annoyed, he still comforted, Little Peach, don't cry. If you have something to say, just say it. You can't solve the problem even if you cry. President Kong, then, do you believe me? Little Peach wiped her tears and asked weakly. Xiaobo didn't know how to respond to Peach's question at all. He hadn't even said anything yet, and she was asking if he believed her or not. Red, tell me the whole story, and if you're not wrong, then I'll tell you what I'm going to tell you. If you are really not wrong, I naturally won't blame you. But if you really betray the company's interests, even if I rely on you, I can't let you live. President Kong, I will tell you now. Little Peach didn't hide anything. She directly told him her identity and her previous relationship with Kong Ming. Also, she told Kong Xiaobo that Kong Ming sent her to spy on the secret and played with her. When Kong Xiaobo heard the name of his cousin, Kong Ming, he was a little surprised, but he was more angry. This cousin of his was actually going against him and his boss. This person was really hopeless. The person Xiaobo hated the most in his life was Kong Xiaoming. Not only did he hurt Fun, but Kong Xiaoming as well. He even sent people to oppose him and Lin Yi. Kong Xiaobo was no longer the hot-blooded young man who impulsively wanted to go up to the rooftop with Lin Yi. He had been in the business world for so long. Naturally, Kong Xiaobo had the ability to read people. Whether Little Peach was lying or telling the truth, Kong Xiaobo could tell at a glance. Based on Little Peach's words and tone, Kong Xiaobo could basically tell that Little Peach wasn't lying. Moreover, the Kong Ming that Little Peach mentioned was very similar to his character. Blinded by greed, he was a person who put benefits above everything else. At the same time, Kong Ming also sympathized with Little Peach. This person was completely a sacrifice that Kong Ming used to climb up. It could be said that Kong Ming didn't have any feelings for her. He was just using her. After using her, he would kick her away. How can I believe you? Although Kong Xiaobo had already made a judgment in his heart, he wasn't an irrational person. He needed evidence for everything. He looked at Little Peach and asked, I have a recording of my conversation with Kong Ming. Because these are for young sect master to listen to, I recorded it. Director Kong, I can play it for you. After you listen to it, you will know Kong Ming's thoughts. My task here can be said to be completed. I should go back, but he asked me to stay here for 3 to 5 years. Is this what someone who likes me would say? 3 to 5 years, how long is that? Will he let me stay here alone? Little Peach shook her head with a bitter smile and said, Director Kong, I won't lie to you. I came here to avoid Kong Ming and start a new life. Our young sect master is a good person. He gave me this opportunity and told me that I just need to pretend to be courteous to Kong Ming. Okay, let me listen. Kong Ming nodded and signaled Little Peach to play the recording. Little Peach didn't say anything more. Instead, she played the recording of the conversation between her and Kong Ming to Kong Xiaobo. After listening to the recording, Kong Xiaobo basically believed Little Peach's words. He couldn't help but sigh slightly. He felt that Little Peach was very pitiful. At this time, he was very sympathetic to Little Peach. Perhaps it was because they were in the same boat as Lan Fun. Both of them were pitiful people abandoned by Kong Xiaoming. Little Peach, I believe you. So, your name isn't Tao Xiaohong, but Little Peach? Kong Xiaobo asked. Thank you for your trust, Director Kong. Little Peach was surprised and happy. Yes, my name is Little Peach. Tao Xiaohong is the name that the young sect master gave me. I've been a maid since I was young. I don't have any name. Your Heavenly Elixir sect's young sect master is an upright person. In fact, Kong Xiaobo also trusted the Heavenly Silkworm transformation. Back then, Kong Xiaobo also heard that the Heavenly Silkworm transformation had helped Lin Yi, so his impression of the Heavenly Silkworm transformation was still very good. If you can ask him to call me and explain this matter, then this matter will be over. You are still my secretary, and I will not pursue this matter anymore. I'll try. Little Peach didn't dare guarantee that the Heavenly Silkworm transformation could communicate with Kong Xiaobo for her. After saying so, Little Peach dialed Tian Chan's number. Little Peach, what's the matter? Tian Chan still had a lot of feelings for Little Peach. After all, she had followed her for so long. Now that she had left her side, Tian Chan would often think of her. Young sect master, it's like this. When I was on the phone with Kong Ming, I was discovered by Director Kong. Little Peach said weakly, Little Peach, why are you so careless? What did Kong Xiaobo say now? Tian Chan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She didn't expect Little Peach to not be vigilant at all. Didn't she know how to avoid making a phone call? He said that he wants you to explain to him. Little Peach said as she told Tian Chan what she had already confessed. Okay, I'll talk to him. Tian Chan agreed readily. This surprised and delighted Little Peach. She quickly gave the phone to Kong Ming Ming and said, Director Kong, the young sect master wants to talk to you. Hello, young sect master Tian. Kong Xiaobo picked up the phone nervously. After all, the other party was the young sect master of a super ancient sect. What had Kong Xiaobo spoken to such a person? Chapter 3186. In that case, she subconsciously wanted to leave a good impression in front of him. What Little Peach said is all true. I can guarantee it with my identity and status. Besides, I'm the young master of the Heavenly Elixir sect. I don't think I need to lie to you. That's true. Kong Xiaobo couldn't think of any reason for the young master of the Heavenly Elixir sect to lie to him. Although he couldn't rule out the possibility that the Silkworm Change and Little Peach were in cahoots, Kong Xiaobo knew that the Silkworm Change was the Silkworm Change, and Kong Ming Ming was Kong Ming. Kong Ming Ming wanted to deal with Lin Yi and him, but the Silkworm Change had helped Lin Yi a lot. Not only did it look for Lin Yi in the trial, but it also helped when the Dark Knight Palace was attacked. This showed the attitude of the Silkworm Change. If the Silkworm Change threatened Lin Yi and asked Lin Yi to hand over the materials of the first-grade automatic medicine cauldron, he believed that Lin Yi would definitely hand it over. Lin Yi was a person who valued kindness. If the Silkworm Change wanted the materials, it didn't need to put in so much effort. It could be done with a phone call. Why would it need to pretend with Little Peach? As for Kong Ming Ming, Kong Xiaobo also knew that he had always wanted to deal with Lin Yi and himself, so what Little Peach said was very reasonable. As for why Kong Ming Ming, as an elder of the Heavenly Elixir sect, didn't listen to the Silkworm Change, the reason was very simple. A big sect couldn't only have one force. Little Peach had also said that the person who supported Kong Ming Ming was the Silkworm Change's martial uncle, who was also a strong person. So it was reasonable that the Silkworm Change couldn't fight with him head-on. Since young sect Master Tian has said so, I will definitely believe you no matter what. No matter what, you've helped my boss so much, so there's no need to lie to me. Kong Xiaobo said, However, young Master Tian, do you mind if I tell Boss Lin Yi about this matter? You can tell him. It's okay, Tian Chan said. All right, thanks for understanding, Xiaobo said with a sigh of relief. He couldn't hide this from Lin, even if he wanted to. If he had to keep the heavenly silkworm transformation a secret, he would have been in a difficult position. But now, there was no problem. After hanging up the phone, Kong Xiaobo only felt sympathy for Little Peach. He didn't expect Little Peach to be so pitiful, so he sighed and said, Little Peach, you're also a pitiful person, and so is my girlfriend. I'll introduce you two when the time comes. I'm sure you'll have a lot of common topics to talk about. In fact, Little Peach and Lon Fan belonged to the same company. They had known each other for a long time, but they didn't have a deep relationship. After all, Little Peach was only Kong Xiaobo's secretary. She had gone to make friends with Kong Xiaobo's girlfriend. It was a little strange, but it was different when Kong Xiaobo brought it up. In fact, Little Peach also wanted to talk to Lon Fan. She had read Kong Xiaobo's information and knew Lon Fan's background. This girl's background was even more miserable than hers. Compared to her, she was nothing. Little Peach was just cheated by Kong Ming Ming, but Lon Fan was not only cheated, but also set up a car accident by Kong Ming Ming. In the end, she was even forced to jump off a building. Not only did she have mental problems, but her legs were also broken. Fortunately, she met Lin Yi and Kong Xiaobo. Otherwise, Lon Fan's life would have been ruined. The two of them were in the same boat, and Little Peach also had a good impression of Kong Xiaobo. Naturally, she had to pay a visit to Lon Fan. Thank you, Mr. Kong. Actually, I've already read the information and know that Miss Lon was also hurt by Kong Xiaoming. If you can introduce us to each other, I'll be able to vent my frustrations. It'll be a lot easier. Little Peach didn't hide her knowledge of Lon Fan. Oh, Kong Xiaobo was slightly stunned. He didn't expect that Little Peach had already known about lawn fun. But thinking about it, since she was sent by Kong Ming Ming and alarmed Silkworm Transformation must have investigated his information in advance. In this way, Kong Ming Ming was relieved. He nodded and said, "Then I will call Xiaofan." As Kong Xiaobo said, he picked up the phone on the desk and dialed Xiaofan's internal line. "It's me, Xiaofan," Kong Xiaobo said directly. "Xiaobo, why are you calling me?" Xiaofan was a little surprised. Usually, at work, Kong Xiaobo would do his business and wouldn't call her directly. Even if there was business, he would let his assistant contact her. Generally, he wouldn't call her personally. "Do you have anything on your hands now?" Kong Xiaobo asked. "Not for the time being." "Why? What's the matter?" Xiaofan asked curiously. "It's like this. You know my secretary, Tao Xiaohong. Before she came to the company, there was a story. I hope you can enlighten her." Kong Xiaobo said. "Me? Enlighten her?" Xiaofan was slightly stunned. She didn't understand what Kong Xiaobo meant. "How can I enlighten her? Before, she was just abandoned by Kong Ming Ming, that bastard," Kong Xiaobo said with a bitter smile. "What?" Xiaofan was stunned after hearing it. She didn't expect Kong Xiaobo to say this. This Tao Xiaohong actually has a relationship with Kong Ming Ming? Isn't this too much of a coincidence? "Actually, it's like this." Kong Xiaobo briefly told Xiaofan about the matter between Little Peach and Kong Ming Ming. Then he said, "Now that the young sect master of Heavenly Elixir Sect is guaranteed in front of me, there's no problem with Little Peach." "I understand. Ask her to come over," Xiaofan sighed. Xiaofan sighed. Looking at Little Peach's current state, she thought of herself in the past. However, her injuries were deeper than Little Peach's. Little Peach had only just fallen. "Okay, I'll ask her to look for you now." Kong Xiaobo nodded. Kong Xiaobo asked Little Peach to look for Xiaofan while he called Lin Yi. "Boss." "Xiaobo, what's the matter?" Lin Yi quickly picked up the phone. "Boss, it's like this." Kong Xiaobo told Lin Yi about Little Peach and his conversation with Heavenly Silkworm Transformation. Lin Yi was shocked after hearing Kong Xiaobo's words. He didn't expect Kong Ming Ming to reach out to him again. He didn't expect Heavenly Silkworm Transformation to be on his side. Actually, Lin Yi had always been doubtful about Heavenly Silkworm Transformation's attitude towards him. In the Heavenly Elixir sex trial, when Heavenly Silkworm Transformation was making things difficult for Lin Yi, it helped Lin Yi out. These all showed that Heavenly Silkworm Transformation shouldn't be his enemy. Chapter 3187. Although it was Kong Ming Ming's loss, the pills didn't belong to him. It should belong to Sky Elixir Sect. Did the young master of Sky Elixir Sect not hold a grudge against him? Or was it just as Kong Xiaobo said? There were several factions in Sky Elixir Sect, and Kong Ming Ming's faction and Silkworm Change's faction were enemies. So the loss was probably the profits of that faction, and it had nothing to do with Silkworm Change. Lin Yi couldn't figure it out, but there were some things that Lin Yi couldn't ask Silkworm Change directly. He could only take it one step at a time. Since Silkworm Change is acting as Little Peach's guarantor, you don't have to worry about anything. Let her continue working in your company. We still have to give Silkworm Change face. Lin Yi was a grateful person, and Silkworm Change had done him a favor. No matter what, he had to trust Silkworm Change this once. Kong Xiaobo's company didn't have any core secrets. Those medicine formulas were treasures to House Kong, but they were useless to Sky Elixir Sect now. If they wanted them, they could make them themselves. They didn't need to steal from Lin Yi. So from Lin Yi's point of view, Silkworm Change wouldn't be able to do anything bad to him. "I understand." Kong Xiaobo nodded. After hanging up, Lin Yi called Lu Jinghan. "Jinghan, I have something to tell you," Lin Yi said, then told her about Kong Ming Ming's plans on the first-grade automatic cauldrons. "You need to be on guard here. If Kong Ming Ming can't find a breakthrough from Fatty Lie's side, he'll go to your side." "Lin Yi bro, I know. Kong Ming Ming has already made his move. He's bribed a foreman of our house Lu's electronics factory, and he's stealing the factory's information. It seems like he's working on two fronts, not just Boss Lai," Lu Jinghan said. "Oh, he's already made his move? You know, how'd you deal with it?" Lin Yi asked in surprise. "I I didn't deal with it. However, I've already sent people to keep an eye on Foreman Su. Lu Jinghan said, on my side, if I get rid of Foreman Su, Kong Ming will definitely find other ways to steal the information. Instead of that, it's better to control the danger in our own hands. We just need to keep an eye on Kong Ming and Foreman Su. Oh, is there nothing on Foreman Su's side to steal? Lenny didn't expect Lu Jinghan to have already noticed this. He was relieved. Yes, that side is filled with production materials. In fact, the core technology of the first-grade automatic medical cauldron is the source code in the single-chip microcomputer. The manufacturing process and plans can actually be imitated by most high-end electronics companies through our products. It's not a problem at all. Kong Ming can steal these things if he wants to. It doesn't matter, Lu Jinghan said. If that's the case, where did you save the source code? Lenny nodded and asked. The source code is in the head office. It's in the computer in the secret room of my office. No one in this secretary company knows that when the source code is written, I personally operate it. I let the company's workers place the chips on the programmer in batches and give it to me. I operate the computer in the secret room to write the program. Lu Jinghan said, although it's a bit troublesome, fortunately, the production and sales of our medical cauldrons aren't high. There are only a few a day. I can operate it myself. Each time it takes about half an hour. I can write 50 single-chip microcomputer chips in batches at the same time. That's good. Lin, he was relieved after listening. But you have to be careful. If Kong Ming can't get what he wants from Foreman Su, he will definitely think of other ways. Don't worry. I'll be careful, Lu Jinghan replied. On Kong Ming's side, he spent 600,000 yuan to get the information from Foreman Su. Although 600,000 yuan wasn't a lot, Kong Ming was quite depressed. After all, it wasted a lot of his time. All the information he got was the manufacturing process. This manufacturing process could be easily replicated by any electronics company. The circuit board inside was also very simple. There wasn't any technical difficulty in producing it. With these things, it could only be said that it was easier for Kong Ming to copy it. It could save some time to design the mold, but it didn't help the material. That's all. Kong Ming looked at Foreman Su with some disappointment. Boss Kong, this is all the information I can get. You see, Foreman Su looked at Kong Ming's face and knew that he wasn't satisfied with the information he brought. However, there was no other way. Foreman Su had tried his best. Why isn't there any information about this single-chip microcomputer and the source code? Kong Ming frowned and asked. I heard that this single-chip microcomputer isn't produced in China. The program is written by the head office. Our electronics factory isn't responsible for these. Foreman Su said with some difficulty. Oh, it's written by someone from the head office? Do you know who's responsible? Kong Ming's eyes lit up. As long as the program was written here, it was fine. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if it had to go overseas. I'm not very sure about this. You know that I'm just a small leader in the factory. Foreman Su said, I can't find out about the head office's matters. All right. You can go back. Don't tell anyone that I'm looking for you. Do you understand? Kong Ming said sternly. Otherwise, even if I'm exposed, you won't be able to get away with selling trade secrets. I understand. Foreman Su said quickly. It's good that you understand. Kong Ming nodded, stood up, and left. He had to find a way to find out about the Lu family's headquarters. It seemed that the source code of this single-chip microcomputer was in the hands of a few people. It was impossible for ordinary employees to know about it. However, Kong Ming was lucky. He waited near the factory for a few days and saw the person who sent the single-chip microcomputer to the factory. This person was the one who sent the programmed microcontroller to the factory. Kong Xiaoming was able to find the person now. When this person sent the single-chip microcomputer, got in the car, and was about to leave, Kong Ming opened the door of the front passenger seat and sat down. Bro, let's talk. Kong Ming said with a smile. Who are you? What do you want? Let me tell you, I don't have money. I'm just delivering the goods to the company. This car is the company's bus, not mine. The person saw Kong Ming get in the car and was shocked. He thought that Kong Ming wanted to rob him. Chapter 3188. Let me introduce myself. My surname is Kong, and I'm here to discuss a business deal with you. Kong Ming Ming introduced himself. What business do you want to discuss with me? I'm just a delivery man. If you have a business deal, go talk to our company's leader. That's the job of the department manager. I'm just an employee. What's there to discuss? The delivery man was confused. Don't rush. I just want to ask you something. If you answer me, I'll give you 20,000 kwai. How's that? Kong Xiaoming said as he took out 2 stacks of cash and placed them in front of the delivery man. You? What do you mean? I'm telling you, I don't do anything illegal. I'm just a delivery man. I don't know anything. You want me to kill people and burn things down? I won't do that. The delivery man looked at the cash in front of him and was shocked. Don't worry. I'm not asking you to kill people or burn things down. I just want to ask you a question. Where did you get all these microcontrollers? Kong Ming Ming asked. That's the question? The company asked me to deliver them. You want me to answer this question and you'll give me money? The delivery man opened his eyes wide and looked at Kong Ming Ming in disbelief. Of course, that's the question. But you have to tell me, who gave you these microcontrollers? Kong Ming Ming said, which means, who wrote the program? This microcontroller was given to me by Vice CEO Lu's assistant. As for who wrote the program, I don't know. The delivery man shook his head. Vice CEO Lu? Who? Kong Ming Ming asked. It's Lu Jinghan, Vice CEO Lu. She's the leader of our Lu's group. The delivery man explained. The leader of your group? How could she be the Vice CEO? Who's your CEO? Kong Ming Ming asked curiously. Lu Jinghan was the CEO. It's like this. The CEO of our group is actually Mr. Lu Tianli. But Mr. Lu Tianli entered rehab because of drug abuse. After he came out of rehab, he's been living in a sanatorium. Vice CEO Lu is actually the same as the CEO. It's just that she hasn't officially taken up the position yet. That's to say, Lu Jinghan wrote the program in this single-chip computer? Kong Ming Ming asked. More or less. I'm not sure either. The delivery man said, okay, the money is yours. After Kong Ming Ming got the information he wanted, he got out of the car. Now things had reached a dead end. If this program was really written by Lu Jinghan, then it would be useless for Kong Ming Ming to look for anyone but Lu Jinghan. But how could Lu Jinghan give the program to Kong Ming Ming? Kong Ming Ming pondered. He could only start with Lu Jinghan's secretary. Of course, Kong Ming Ming didn't look for Lu Jinghan's assistant directly. Usually, the assistant was Lu Jinghan's confidant. He only looked for Lu Jinghan's personal secretary. This secretary was only responsible for cleaning the office and serving tea. She did not participate in the business. So this kind of person was not Lu Jinghan's confidant, and she wouldn't earn much money. It was easier to attack. As expected, Kong Xiaoming managed to get some important information from his personal secretary. As expected, Lu Jinghan was responsible for writing the SCM. However, there was no programming device in Lu Jinghan's office. According to the long-term work observation of this personal secretary, there was a secret room in Lu Jinghan's office. This secret room could only be entered through fingerprint verification. Then this secret room, you guys have never entered it before? Kong Ming Ming asked. No, including Vice CEO Lu's assistant and business secretary. That's the forbidden area of the CEO's office. Only the former CEO Lu and the current Vice CEO Lu can enter. There's a verification, the personal secretary said. Oh, does that mean Lu Tianli can enter as well? Kong Ming Ming suddenly thought of something and his eyes lit up. Yes, this was the former CEO Lu's office. The personal secretary said, okay, I understand. Kong Xiaoming left after paying the fee. He didn't stay around the company anymore. Instead, he went to carry out another plan. In fact, Lu Jinghan had been monitoring Kong Ming Ming's contact with these people. Although she didn't know what Kong Ming Ming had said to these people, she didn't care. These people couldn't touch the company's core secrets. Even if Kong Ming Ming went to them, he wouldn't be able to get the source code. It would be useless. So Lu Jinghan let him do whatever he wanted. As for the employees in the company, Lu Jinghan decided to deal with them later. After Kong Ming Ming left, he went to Lu Tianli Sanatorium. This wasn't a secret. With Kong Ming Ming's connections, Finding out where Lu Tianli was an easy task. In the middle of the night, Kong Ming went around the people house Lu sent to watch over Lu Tianli and went straight into Lu Tianli's room. Kong Ming was now a sky-class master. Although he didn't have much fighting ability, it was still a piece of cake for him to go around the guards outside the door. These days, to Lu Tianli, every day was painful. After leaving the drugs, Lu Tianli became extremely haggard. Although he wanted to continue taking drugs, he didn't have the money or the means to buy them. Although he came out of the sanatorium and stayed in the sanatorium, there were still guards sent by Lu Jinghan outside the sanatorium villa. They said it was to protect his safety, but in reality, they were watching him and not letting him leave. He wouldn't have a chance to touch drugs again. During the day, Lu Tianli could go play cards and drink with his friends in the sanatorium. He could get through it, but at night, it was hard to get through. Every time the drugs acted up in the middle of the night, Lu Tianli would be in so much pain that he had the urge to die. At this moment, Tianli's addiction was acting up, and he was panting heavily on the bed when Kong Xiaoming appeared in front of Tianli's bed without a sound. Want one? Kong Ming passed a cigarette to Lu Tianli. Of course, this cigarette had been specially processed, and there were drugs in it. Kong Ming had prepared it before coming. Tianli saw the cigarette and grabbed it without thinking, putting it in his mouth. Kong Xiaoming lit it up for him at the same time. Lu Tianli didn't even have cigarettes, let alone drugs. So he didn't care who Kong Ming was or how he got in here. Naturally, he wouldn't let go of a cigarette to satisfy his craving. Chapter 3189. This wasn't a normal cigarette. It smelled exactly the same as the ones he used to smoke. This was a cigarette with drugs in it. Although he knew subconsciously that taking drugs wasn't right, he couldn't control himself. Besides, he didn't have anything now. Living in the sanatorium every day was boring, so he might as well just throw it away and enjoy himself for as long as he could. Good, this is satisfying. Tianli praised. He was as happy as a god after finishing the cigarette. Mr. Lu, do you want another? Kong Ming smiled and placed a pack of cigarettes in front of Tianli. You? Who are you? How did you get in here? Why do you have drugs? Tianli looked at the pack of cigarettes in Kong Ming's hand, his eyes filled with greed. But he wasn't stupid. He knew that Kong Ming wouldn't be here just to give him cigarettes for no reason. There had to be some other reason. Haha, who I am isn't important. What's important is that I can provide you with a lot of these cigarettes. Kong Ming said with a smile. Why? What do you want? Tianli needed cigarettes, but he knew that there was no free lunch in this world. Mr. Lu is a smart man. You should be able to enter the secret room in the CEO's office, right? Kong Ming asked. The secret room in the CEO's office? You mean the Lu's group? Tianli asked, but his eyes were on the cigarettes that Kong Ming had placed on his bedside table. Have another one if you want. Kong Ming said as he handed the cigarette over again. After Tianli took another puff, he said, That's right, the secret room in the CEO's office. You can go in, why do you ask? Tianli was confused why Kong Ming was asking about the secret room. There was nothing in there, just a computer and a bed. This was where Tianli used to rest when he was frustrated. Otherwise, who would leave something valuable in the company? It wasn't like the Lu family didn't have secret rooms to store things in. Bring me in later. As a reward, I'll give you 10 cartons of cigarettes. They're all like this. Kong Ming pointed at the cigarettes on the table and said, 10? Tianli paused. He knew that Kong Ming going to the company's secret room wouldn't be a good thing, but his desire won out over his rationality. He needed drugs. 10 cigarettes was enough for him to have fun for a while, and the pleasure he got from smoking just now made him extremely happy. But Tianli was a successful businessman after all, and he knew how to bargain. 30. He raised the price directly. If Kong Xiaoming wanted to go to the secret room, then he must have a plan. Although Tianli Lu didn't think that there was anything important in the secret room, he still tried to test the waters by stating his conditions. Sure, Kong Xiaoming didn't even think about it. The drugs were rare, but it wasn't expensive for Kong Xiaoming. It was just 50 cigarettes. It was a drop in the ocean compared to the reward. Tianli saw that Kong Ming Ming agreed so quickly, and he knew that his condition wasn't enough. You have to give me some up front, otherwise how can I trust you? Now? Kong Xiaoming paused for a moment. Sure, they're all in my car. Actually, I prepared 40 of them. If things go smoothly, I can give them all to you. I don't have them anyway. I don't take drugs. All right. Tianli was happy again. You want to go to the secret room? Let's go now. But there are guards at the door. Can you hide? Sure. Kong Xiaoming nodded and replied casually. With that, he grabbed Tianli and jumped out of the window, disappearing into the night. Tianli was surprised and happy as he watched his body fly up into the air, landing a few hundred meters away from the villa. You're a practitioner? Yes, I'm a sky-class master, Kong Ming Ming said. So you should know that I have no reason to lie to you. If I wasn't afraid of being discovered, I would have just destroyed the secret room's mechanism by force. It wasn't that Kong Ming Ming hadn't thought of doing that, but he was afraid that he'd be discovered when he was destroying the mechanism. If that happened, he'd have to run first, and there wouldn't be a second chance. That was why he brought Tianli here. Hearing that Kong Ming Ming was a sky-class master, Tianli was shocked. He nodded. All right, if that's the case, let's go. The two came to a car, and Kong Ming Ming opened the trunk, showing the cigarettes inside to Tianli. Tianli got in the car, satisfied, and followed Kong Ming Ming to the Lu Group. The Lu Group's security was good, but these people were all masters of the common world. It was impossible for them to guard against a sky-class master like Kong Ming Ming. Kong Ming Ming brought Tianli and flew into the washroom with the window open, going upstairs to the CEO's office. Lu Jinghan didn't change the lock, so Tianli easily opened the CEO's office door with his key. Jinghan didn't expect Tianli to come to this place again. After all, Tianli was still the old CEO in name, but he'd already retired to the sanatorium. Why would he come back? After entering the office, Tianli flipped open one of the murals in the office with familiarity. Behind the murals was a fingerprint recognition device. Tianli keyed in the password and verified the fingerprint, and the door to the secret room opened slowly. Because Tianli entered the office and opened the door to the secret room through the proper way, the security measures weren't activated at all. It was like Jinghan coming here alone at night. As long as Jinghan didn't purposely look at the security cameras, she wouldn't notice anything. All right, the door is open. Do what you want to do as soon as possible. If someone finds out, neither of us will have a good ending, Tianli reminded. Kong Ming Ming nodded. I know that even if you don't remind me, I'll do it as soon as possible. Chapter 3190. However, Kong Ming Ming wasn't interested in this programmer at all. Even if he took it away, it wouldn't be of much use. He didn't have this kind of MCU, and he wouldn't be able to produce it. What he needed to do was to copy the source files from the MCU, analyze them, and write them into a MCU that he could buy. This would replace the original MCU and act as a simulation. Kong Ming Ming quickly turned on the computer and entered the system. Because this was a secret room, Lu Jinghan didn't set a password. After all, she didn't expect anyone to be able to enter the secret room. Of course, even if she did set a password, she could still use the USB drive to bypass the original system and copy the data inside. Soon, Kong Ming Ming found a folder called Cauldron Source Program in Lu Jinghan's D drive. Kong Ming Ming opened it and saw the single version 10-in-1 and 5-in-1 source files. Kong Ming Ming quickly inserted the USB drive into the computer and copied the source files out. From the looks of it, this computer was used to write programs. Other than the programmer's driver, there was nothing else. Kong Xiaoming also copied the programmer's driver. Although he couldn't copy the MCU in the cauldron, he could use the programmer's driver to analyze the general parameters of the MCU and find a replacement MCU chip. After copying everything, Kong Ming Ming turned off the computer and pulled out the USB drive. He said to Tianli, "Mr. Lu, let's go." "Oh, it's done?" Tianli didn't know what Kong Ming Ming had copied, but he didn't have the time to think about it. His mind was filled with the 40 cartons of cigarettes. After locking the office door, Kong Ming Ming brought Tianli back the way they came. Kong Ming Ming didn't lie to Tianli. After sending him back, he gave the 40 cartons of cigarettes to Tianli and left Yinjing City quietly, returning to the Sky Elixir sect. With these programs, it wasn't easy for Benjamin II to find a replacement chip after making some modifications, but it wasn't too difficult either. After a few days of hard work, he finally found a replacement chip that could mimic the original chip's function. As for the cauldron itself, although Kong Xiaoming had gotten the production process information from Supervisor Su, the titanium alloy used in the cauldron wasn't smelted by this factory. It was imported from a place called X Island. Kong Xiaoming didn't know the process of smelting it. But this wasn't a problem for Benjamin II. He used an ordinary first-grade cauldron, combined with the assembly process provided by Su Gongming, and actually created an automatic cauldron made from an ordinary first-grade cauldron. This modified product had the same function as an automatic cauldron, although the cost was higher because it was a real first-grade cauldron, but compared to the price of this cauldron, the cost was still very low. When the Xinshan ancestor and Kongming Ming heard the good news, they were all smiles. Father-in-law, it seems like this time we can attack Lin Yi again. Once our cauldron goes on the market, we'll break Lin Yi's monopoly. At that time, we'll sell it at a slightly lower price. This way, people will come to buy our cauldron, Kongming Ming said. Not only are we cheap, but the Sky Elixir sect is also a long-established alchemy sect. I believe those alchemists will know who to choose when the time comes. The Xinshan ancestor was also very confident about the product that was about to go on the market. Okay, mass-produce the finished product as soon as possible, and we'll put it on the market. The Xinshan ancestor said decisively. But, father-in-law, we don't have any funds now. The money is used to refine first-grade elixirs. There are still so many elixirs in the warehouse. Kongming Ming said with some difficulty. Doesn't the Cultivator Trade Association provide loans? Let's go there to borrow some. Anyway, we can earn back the money quickly, the Xinshan ancestor said after thinking about it. Okay, I'll go now. Kongming Ming was also confident about the first-grade automatic cauldron. After all, he had seen Lu Jing'an's sales. If he could get 1/3 of the market, he could make a lot of money and make up for the previous losses. On this day, a major event happened in the cultivation world. The first-grade intelligent cauldron produced by the Sky Elixir sect went on the market. The so-called first-grade intelligent cauldron was actually the same thing as the first-grade automatic cauldron. The two had different approaches, but achieved the same result. The only difference was the name. Kongming Ming was also very smart. He did not produce those single-edition and 5-in-1 cauldrons. Instead, he directly produced a 10-in-1 limited-edition fine cauldron. He knew that if he wanted to seize the market, he could only snatch the market share from Lin Yi by producing and selling such rare products. In any case, this thing was not developed by Kongming Ming. He only cared about the immediate benefits, not the long-term benefits. In his opinion, this kind of imitation business would not last long. After the sales war between the two parties started, the price of the cauldron would definitely become cheaper and cheaper. When that time came, the profits would also decrease. In this case, it was better to sell as much as possible from the beginning. This 10-in-1 cauldron was usually sold for around 1.5 billion in the Cultivator Trade Association. However, when Kongming Ming's 10-in-1 cauldron went on the market, it was sold for a discounted price of 999,990,000. The aristocratic families and sects were not stupid. If there was a bargain, they would naturally choose the cheap one. Moreover, if they went to the Cultivator Trade Association to auction it, they might not be able to get it. On the other hand, the Sky Elixir sect sold it 24/7. It was obvious which one was better. Therefore, on the first day that the Sky Elixir sect's 10-in-1 intelligent cauldron went on the market, 3 were sold. That was close to 3 billion. After deducting the manufacturing cost, there was a net profit of 2 billion. It was a good business with a small capital, but great profits. The people from the Cultivator Trade Association were dumbfounded when the Sky Elixir sect's medicinal cauldron went on the market. The people from the Lu family were also dumbfounded. They did not expect that the other party would also have a medicinal cauldron with the same function on the market. although the Sky Elixir sect claimed that it was their latest and exclusive development. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that it was a complete imitation of Lin Yi's first-grade automatic cauldron. Chapter 3191. Moreover, there were a few more useful first-grade pills that Lin Yi's cauldron didn't include. The Heavenly Elixir sect could add them, but they didn't. What did this mean? When Vice Chairman Ouyang told Lin Yi the news, Lin Yi was shocked and angry. This was a blatant fake. Lin Yi didn't even need to think about it. It must be Kong Mingming's doing. This guy liked to do this kind of thing the most. The Kong family was like this in the past. Chapter 3192. All right, since you put it that way, we'll leave it at that. You and Jing Han can discuss how to upgrade the cauldron. Lin Yi didn't dwell on this matter. After all, this thing was made by Han Jingjing, and Lin Yi was reaping the fruits of her labor. Even Han Jingjing, the inventor, wasn't unhappy about it. So what was there for Lin Yi to be unhappy about? This thing belonged to Han Jingjing, and even if she gave it to Kong Mingming for free, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to say anything, let alone pleading for House Lu. So Lin Yi agreed right away. In fact, as long as Han Jingjing wasn't angry, Lin Yi wouldn't be either. Lin Yi felt that Han Jingjing's hard work was betrayed by Lu Tianli and Lu Jinghan to Kong Mingming, and it wasn't worth it for Han Jingjing, but Han Jingjing didn't feel anything wrong about it. The news of Miracle Dr. Guan's cauldrons being able to be upgraded spread across all the ancient sects and houses like a spring breeze. This made those sects and houses that were waiting to see what would happen once again run to the Cultivator Trade Association. The houses and sects that bought Miracle Dr. Guan's cauldrons were so happy they couldn't close their mouths. Although they bought the cauldrons at a high price, and people thought that they were being taken advantage of, it was great now. Those who bought the Sky Elixir sect cauldrons were the ones that lost out. Although the Sky Elixir sect said that their cauldrons were original, these sects and houses weren't idiots. Who couldn't tell that the Sky Elixir sect was copying Miracle Dr. Guan's cauldrons? The functions were the same, and there were no changes or additions. Who would believe that it was original? Miracle Dr. Guan's quick retaliation proved this point. They were targeting the counterfeit cauldrons in the market. If the Sky Elixir sect was original, why didn't they upgrade their cauldrons as well? The medicinal cauldron sales center of the Heavenly Elixir sect suddenly became deserted from the bustling crowd that it used to be. Everyone obediently went to the Cultivator Trade Association to register for the auction. Those who bought the medicine cauldrons also went to the Lu Group to upgrade their medicine cauldrons. Hence, the Heavenly Elixir sect's first-grade intelligent medicine cauldron was like a flash in the pan. The few people who bought it all regretted it. They couldn't get a refund, nor could they go to the Lu Group to upgrade it because they didn't support the upgrade of pirated chips. This Lin Yi is too cunning. I'm afraid he has already thought of a countermeasure. Once we replicate it, he will level up and cheat us. Kong Mingming said hatefully. All right, let's not talk about this anymore. Right now, the initiative is in their hands. The only thing we need to do now is to keep up with Lin Yi's pace. We can't fall too far behind them. However, Patriarch Xianshan was very calm. The most important thing now is to buy a 15-in-1 medicinal cauldron. Then, we'll crack the program inside and upgrade the products we sell. As long as our after-sales service can keep up, even if we're imitations, they'll still sell well. That's true, but the key question is, how do we get the 15-in-1 medicinal cauldron back? Kong Mingming said worriedly. After using the previous method once, we definitely can't use it a second time. Even if I go to Lu Tianli again, it's useless. Let's not talk about whether he can take me there. Even if he does, I'm afraid that Lu Jinghan has already changed the password. We still can't enter the secret room. You think of a way to deal with this matter. Discuss it with Dr. Benjamin too, and see if he has a way to crack the new program. Patriarch Xianshan asked. After all, he has come into contact with those source programs now. See if there are any other ways. Okay, I'll ask him. Kong Mingming nodded. After chatting here, he called Dr. Benjamin II. Dr. Benjamin II, I have such a thing to tell you. Kong Xiaoming answered the phone and said straightforwardly. I know. Is it about the 15-in-1 medicinal cauldron? Dr. Benjamin, too, obviously also paid attention to the medicinal cauldron on the market. He already knew about the upgrade of Lin Yi's medicinal cauldron. Yes, it's about this. If we don't improve and upgrade, then no one will buy our products. I'm not the only one involved in this. There's also your center's interest. We'll split the profits together. So if you don't think of a way, all our previous efforts will be wasted, Kong Xiaoming said. Who said I don't think of a way? I have been studying the programmer driver you copied for me these days. Dr. Benjamin too said, with the driver of the programmer, I can decipher the parameters and definitions of the special single-chip chip. With these things, I know the general principle of the single-chip chip, and I can start to crack it. Oh, is this for real? So, you have cracked that single-chip chip? Kong Ming didn't expect that the programmer driver that he casually copied back would be so useful. Naturally, in these few days, I can successfully read the program in the single-chip chip. Dr. Benjamin too said, if I didn't have this single-chip driver, I probably wouldn't be able to crack it in my lifetime. But with this thing, everything has become a lot easier. That's great. Well, I will send you a 15-in-1 medicinal cauldron in a few days. You crack the program, and we will also provide an upgrade service for the medicinal cauldron. Kong Ming said. Okay, send me one. Dr. Benjamin too said, by the time your parcel arrives, I guess I will have almost cracked it. Okay, then I will prepare it, said Kong Ming. What Lenny didn't expect was that after a week, the Heavenly Elixir sect also launched an upgrade service for the medicinal cauldron, and the upgrade fee was only 100 million, which was half of the 200 million Lin he charged. Moreover, the Heavenly Elixir sect also announced that as long as the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company's medicinal cauldron was upgraded, the Heavenly Elixir sect would also quickly upgrade the cauldron in less than a week. When this news came out, the users who bought the Heavenly Elixir sect's medicinal cauldron were instantly excited. Those sects and families who were preparing to buy Lin Yi's medicinal cauldron also began to hesitate. After all, the Heavenly Elixir sect's medicinal cauldron was much cheaper, and the upgrade fee was also cheaper. Although the speed of the upgrade might be slower than Lin Yi's medicinal cauldron, it wouldn't be much slower. A week or so was still acceptable. The most important thing was that the cauldron could be upgraded. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.